Good evening, everybody in Europe, and good afternoon, everybody in North America, I suppose, unless you're in California, then it's still the morning. But hi. And Australians, if you're awake, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. But we're back with another episode of Hltv Confirmed. We're going to talk about some Counter-Strike, so if you don't like Counter-Strike, you're definitely in the wrong place. As usual, we'll have Prof and Striker here. Prof, how you doing?
Okay. Could be better, as always. How are you doing, man?
I'm okay. I was just reading some emails. I have my phone for a very long period of time set to the fucking battery saver mode, so no emails have been coming through, which is a good or a bad thing, depends on how you look at it. But yeah, Striker, how about yourself?
Yeah, good. Going back
Okay.
on a relatively normal schedule ahead of ECS, so feeling
Well,
a
you
little
guys
bit better.
didn't have to travel to North America, right?
Well,
Yeah, but we had to
we
be
still
awake
had
until
to.
like 4 a.m. every day for 2 weeks.
What do you mean for? I was awake until like 8 a.m. for a couple of days.
Yeah, for those summits, some long summit days.
It's only been 2 weeks, you know. You guys are
Yeah,
used to it.
I mean,
It's
yeah.
fine. All right, so I guess we'll get underway straight away with the breaking news, and we may as well start with the bit that everybody wants to talk about, which is the Liquid claiming the #1 spot in the HLTV.org rankings. Now, I just want to read something from the bottom of the rankings for everybody, just
Okay.
so everybody's aware. This is very important, and I quote. And the title says HLTV's World Ranking of CSGO Teams. It goes on to say HLTV's World Rankings ranks the best teams in the competitive field of Counter-Strike Global Offensive. The ranking is updated weekly, and the teams move up or down based on their recent performances in competitive matches over the last 2 months. So, just quickly, we'll get it out of the way straight away. Just because Liquid are the #1 team in the world does not mean that everybody thinks that Liquid will beat Astralis. That's the most important thing, I think, to get done and understood for everybody as the dog decides to lick my toes. But obviously on this was going to happen, right, guys? Like the decay was coming in from the events that Astralis were attending. Even the events that Astralis did attend, they didn't win, so they weren't getting the maximum amount of points from the Blast events. They hadn't been at Sydney, they hadn't been at Dallas. Obviously, that's all talked about stuff. It felt like it was only a matter of time until they dropped off the rankings if Liquid continued to, get to finals or win events.
Yeah, and it was like the ideal scenario for Liquid in terms of not even Astralis didn't even win the event they were at, and then Liquid won 2 big events, finished second, so it's almost a perfect run. While Astralis it's not like the worst run. They finished second at Blast, but still, that's not much considering it's just a Blast event, right? The group stage isn't that impressive in any way. So not only have Liquid like taken the #1 spot, there's like quite a big margin between the first 2 teams right now.
Like a 250 points, isn't it? Like
Yeah, and
240 something.
that is because of the major going out of the recent lands sub-ranking. So we have like 3 sub-rankings, 4 achievements and lands, and the lands one is obviously very important. The major is very important, and what happened when they lost that from the rankings, that lost a lot of points for them.
Other than the obvious, Striker, do you have anything on this? Because the community, there's obviously a lot of weight put in this, and I think, at least from my position, this isn't about Astralis not being the best team in the world. It's just a testament to the way that they approach their calendar, right? And obviously, when you put together the fact that Astralis skip a bunch of events, which you already knew, they did that previously, it's not something new. But when you add that with the fact that they were attending Blast events only, obviously the refresh situation, whether or not there is an actual conflict of interest is outside of the debate. It just is clear that they're owned by the same people. So collusion is something that when people look at it, that's something quite easy to jump to that conclusion.
Yeah.
I'm not confirming, denying, giving my opinion on any of this stuff, viewers at home. I'm merely just stating how people could view these situations. And then third and foremost, the fact that with these tournaments that they're attending, obviously the format factors in. So you have those three different parts that all make the sum of the whole here as to why this whole Astralis hate train, I suppose we could call it, has kind of been, coming around the corner, coming around the bend, pulling into the station. Now, with all that factoring into this #1 ranking situation, the fact that Astralis have only dropped down to second after they haven't been playing for such a long period of time, I think that also attests to how dominant they were. Like, obviously, you have to consider the tournaments they were winning. There's a whole discussion that could come from this, right? Because the conversation right now is, Astralis, they're not at all the tournaments, they're only doing Blast events, blah, 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 blah. But I'm assuming the three of us are probably on the same page. Like this ranking is like, it's not a power ranking because it's not like
No, it's not like the last month or so or something.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole bunch going into it from
factors.
previous. Well, and like Prop said, it's the last 10 events, 10 lands, 10 land results, the last year, and then the last 3 months of results. So that's kind of like a pretty big combination. Of course, like it decays by time, but it's still, let's say the last 3 months are the ones that count the most, or maybe like the last 6 months if you want to like sum up the average of the entire rankings, like what's basically matters. So yeah, it's definitely not a power ranking at all. So in that case, in a power ranking, Astralis would probably be somewhere like maybe 5th if we were being kind to them, because they went out 4th at one of the blasts, 2nd at the last one, and then previously they won one. So I guess they would have been somewhere, maybe potentially like even below Vitality at this point, because Vitality actually attended like a more important event. So that's kind of the point that that a power ranking would have.
The real discussion for me anyway becomes about how do we define this stuff, right? Because look, let's just do this quickly. Let's just have a show of hands here, or yay or nay or whatever. But we all would still consider Astralis the best team in the world, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard for me considering
Depends
what
on how
I
you
saw
define
from
it, right?
Yeah, of course. But I mean, going into, let's say we go, it all obviously depends on ECS. So let's imagine ECS doesn't exist and the next event is Pro League. Who do you guys have as the favorites going there? Like, based on the results I've seen in the last 2 months, it's going to be Liquid.
Yep.
But like, so for me, they are the best team right now. So I don't know how you stand on that.
So yeah, I think that there's two kind of problems that come up with this chat, right? Is because first of all, if you're not competing, how can we still know where you're at, right? We don't know. Like if Astralis competed for these 2 months and they continued in the form that they had, well then actually the form would be quite bad, because a lot of people. The thing is, you have to pick or choose where you want to stand on the side of this fence. You stand on one side and you go to yourself, Astralis only attended blast events, and hold up, this is me, not me. This is me saying this from a different person's perspective. I just want to be clear about this. Let's say you put yourself on this side and you're like, I don't think that blast events, their formats, I don't like their formats, right? Let's imagine you stand on that side of the fence. So then you go, well, those events don't count for me because Astralis only attended them, right? So you don't put any stock in them. Say you wanted to do that. On the other side of things, if you want to stand on the fence and you go, yeah, I do actually put weight in blast tournaments, which is cool too. So wherever you want to stand, that's fine. If you want to put weight in the tournaments, Astralis didn't win those tournaments, right? So no matter which way you split it, they still haven't lived up to the expectation. And I agree with you in the sentiment that if they're not out there proving that they're the best team and they're not competing, we can only look at the teams that we have playing, and we can only say that the teams who are playing and where they stand. Now, if Astralis win every single major for the next 2 years, right? What do we say then? Like, what happens then? Do we just because we put the most stock in the majors? So do we care that they're not attending the rest of the tournaments? Do we care that they're not constantly like if they might not be number one in the rankings?
Well, we do care.
But it's like, but if they win every major, what does our conversation become? Because it's like,
I mean,
well,
obviously
the best format.
The majors aren't as important as they potentially used to be maybe 3 years ago, right? So that's the problem that I would have with this. Like, let's say they wouldn't win anything outside of the majors, then it's a different discussion, and then it's a discussion of like which other team was up there with them. So let's say Astralis won all the majors, but Liquid won all of the big tournaments, or like most of the big tournaments, of which there would be like 5 times more than the majors or more, probably more than that actually, maybe like 5, 6, 7 times more tournaments. So if Liquid dominated the big event circuit, and then Astralis will only win the majors because they skipped like a lot of the big events, then we would probably still say, okay, Liquid are the better team because they won like 4 out of 5 tournaments, and the only thing that they didn't win was a major. So I feel like that's the problem there. The majors aren't as prestigious as they used to be, I think, because of how many big events there are outside of the circuit, and a lot of the time they're very competitive in terms of like which top teams are participating in those events, because the majors are not necessarily the most competitive all the time, or not the most competitive they could be anyway.
I mean, my thinking is that if something like that happens, if you see Astralis like skipping a lot of events, focusing like on a few and winning those few like all the time. I mean, we saw it last year, but not with this big of a pause between them. Like last year, they won an event.
It was 6 weeks, right?
Yeah, I think every month they played and won an event, or they finished like top 4, and then they won the next one. So we had like a very consistent way of seeing how they're doing. At the moment, like their last events weren't that great, and then they have this big pause. It's like, obviously they can come back, and if they come back and they dominate again, then the next time they do it will be okay, they did it before. Like it's like similar to the flip side situation at the majors, even though it's like a much worse team, obviously. But we saw them, okay, they're like not playing anything. Then they focus on the major, come to the major, they play like good for their standards. So if you see that like pattern happening more with Astralis, then we can kind of predict, we say, okay, they did it in the past, they're going to do it again. But for me, they just have a few of these like bad results that I think they need to prove themselves before I can say they're the favorites.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion. Obviously, people can have different opinions, and I understand the other point of it.
I'm with your opinion, right? I'm on board. I'm trying to offer up the alternative because for me, as somebody, and we're all the same, we watch like almost every game of tier 1 competitive Counter-Strike, right? Like that's our jobs. We have to be heavily involved in that. So for me, like and Counter-Strike, at least in its current format, is result based. If you're not competing, how can you possibly like? I agree in the sentiment that the major might not be always the most competitive, but I still like put the most prestige in that event, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It's like winning a gold medal at the Olympics as opposed to winning it at just like a world championship or some shit. I think the Olympics will always mean more just because of like the history of it. But for me, I look at this whole situation, and if you're not competing, then I have no bar to measure you on anymore, right? Like, obviously, there's too much Counter-Strike. Like what Mouse Sports did last year, too much Counter-Strike. Like, there's no doubt about that. What Liquid are doing right now, probably too much Counter-Strike, right? It's about defining where that middle ground is. But I guess the thing is right now in our circuit, it's just fucking balls to the wall CS all the time. That's just the way it is. If you're a team competing and you're winning all the tournaments, well, then you're the best team who is competing, right? There's no way around that, right? When you look at the best of threes that Astralis have played in this period of time, 3 of which were best of threes in a group stage environment for Pro League. Like, you can't even really count that. Like, that's like going through the paces. That's like group stage. That's like group stage at WESG. Like, that would be the equivalent, right? Especially with the teams that they played, right? So,
or maybe the entirety of WESG.
Yeah. You have to just think about these little bits in these situations, and for me, it's very results driven. I still think that the jury is out because I don't think Astralis have just forgotten how to play CS. I don't think they're done. I don't think anything along those lines. But I think for me, the team who is currently active and competitive has to be Liquid as the best team. Like it's just we're going to have to wait and see when they play ECS. We're going to get to the conversation about this later, and I said this on the last podcast. But it feels like they have to win that. If they don't win that, then it's like, where the fuck, like, what have they been doing with their time? And there's probably an argument for like, oh, they took holidays after the major, this, that, and the other. You can make a million and one things.
I think
you can make as many arguments for that. You can say, oh, Device has health issues, that's why he doesn't travel to Sydney, or they, don't like going here. First and foremost, those things have absolutely no bearing on whether or not you can compete in the server. The viewer at home, the people in our fucking chat right now, the people watching the final yesterday, they don't give a fuck about that shit. They care about what you do in the server. That's what they care about. That's the only thing that they care about. They care if you're competing. The viewer at home shouldn't be giving 2 fucks on whether or not Astralis, want to take a break. The viewer wants to watch the best Counter-Strike team in the world compete. And if they're not competing, right, then the viewer is obviously going to take the easiest way to demonize or villainize or fucking, unless you're a fan of Astralis, right, because then you'll be on their side regardless. But if you're somebody who just wants to watch the best CS, you're going to want them. You're going to want them to be there. So that's like part and parcel of this. And the teams who have been out there that have been fucking doing it consistently is Liquid and ENCE. They're up there. Obviously, there's moving around. There's a lot of back and forth between some of these other teams, roster changes, visa issues, nonsense like that. But Liquid and ENCE right now, in my mind, are the 1 and 2 until we see Astralis compete. And if Astralis come in, and there's a high probability that MIBR have just been fucking in the hyperbolic time chamber, just going fucking nuts in California. They've been chilling out. They're getting that family vibe back now that Zeus is back in there. They're bringing back the 2017 fucking Brazilians, and they're going to come on. They're going to beat Astralis. Imagine if that happens at ECS. We're all going to be sitting here going, well, Jesus, like this break has really hurt them. So overall, Liquid, you guys are sick cunts. Good shit.
Yeah, I mean that's what I wanted to say at the start when you addressed me and then went on a tangent, talking about your own opinion. I was gonna say like the main takeaway for me is how Liquid is playing, not what this means for Astralis, because Liquid have actually proven that they can win tournaments on a fairly consistent basis. Anyway, sure they went second in Summit, but I don't think we really saw the true Liquid, and I think they proved that. At DreamHack Masters, that they were a little bit off, and at Summit maybe not potentially giving their all, because it is like a fairly irrelevant tournament to them now, considering that they can win big events. So that was my main takeaway. That I think the focus should be on Liquid, not on the omission of Astralis or whatever you want to call it, and them actually being able to win multiple tournaments over they won 2 of the last 3 tournaments and won second place at the third one. So that's kind of like the consistency that Astralis were showing last year, obviously over a much longer period of time than the last 2 months that we're talking about here. But still, that's pretty massive.
Yeah, well, look, I can understand how we should maybe just look at what this means for Liquid, but the problem is they've never beaten Astralis.
That's the buts that I kind of have, even though it doesn't matter if you. I mean, okay, of course it matters that if they can't beat Astralis in the future or whatever, if they and they're still number 1 or whatever, sure. But in general, it's not like the number 1 team in the world was always able to beat everybody else. We've always had like, I'm trying to figure out like the Navi, Liquid, and Astralis, let's say around the halfway point of last year. It was like Liquid over Navi and then Astralis over Liquid, basically. And then Navi potentially were able to take down Astralis, but not very often, right? So that's like the three-way that we had around that time. And of course, Astralis at that time were already number 1. But imagine if it was Liquid in that situation who were winning more events, but they were still losing to Astralis. It doesn't really take away from their stance. It's just like how much can Astralis actually start winning, and while also beating Liquid, right? Only in that way I think they can get back to the top. And that's why we're going to get to ECS later. That's why I think ECS doesn't really matter at all. Like, sure, Astralis kind of need to win it because they will just be kind of laughing stock if they don't. Although I feel like if they lose to MIBR, I think there's always going to be that but, because MIBR have always shown like the ability to take down Astralis at their best. So I feel like unless Astralis just crumble somehow against MIBR, if it's like a very, very close final, I feel like Astralis will still be in a pretty okay spot. Because MIBR, like you say, they've just been focusing a lot on their own game, just as much as Astralis potentially, or even more. Because MIBR haven't really been to that many events now, not as much as they were last year, for example. So if they lose to MIBR, I feel like they're still kind of like I'd still give them a pass. But like obviously, if they don't win APL after that and beat Liquid on the way, then there's a discussion to be had for sure. Like that Astralis are not who they used to be.
I don't think I don't think it's a discussion. It's just like a fact.
Just because we haven't seen them, right? And we have only seen them at events where that don't really matter as much. So I think that's what I was talking about last time about the era discussion. I feel like if Astralis, even if they win as ECS, if they don't win APL, that's when the era ends.
I mean ECS. We'll talk about it later. Actually, let's.
Exactly. That's why I didn't want to brush off on it. But yeah.
Did you see the latest? Latest news. If you have any breaking news, if you're not continuing this topic,
I was just going to get Lucas to bring up the rankings, but we can jump somewhere else for sure.
Yeah, we can actually touch on because there's Vitality and Furia, but that's also part of the discussion about the tournament, so we can do that later, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's Obo standing in for Complexity instead of Stanislaw.
Yeah.
Did that just come out?
Yeah, not long ago.
That literally just came out.
So here's
like 15 minutes ago. Okay.
I suppose
Boomich in chat.
Suppose here's the problem with this whole situation, is that this kid is only 15, so he will only be able to attend select tournaments. Because ESL tournaments have to be 16, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
pretty sure.
Like, it might be fine for ECS, but then what do they do after that? Which could be a bit of a problem. And also, Stan's
how far? What is his birthday though? Does anybody know? I don't really have that in my mind. June 26th, actually. So he's going to be 16
He shouldn't even have a Twitter
He's
account.
literally going to be 16 in 3 weeks, so I think that
he can
point is
make
moot.
Cologne then. Or they're not the Clone anywhere, so
And it's not
doesn't
Cologne.
matter,
Wait, Cologne. Isn't that actually
Germany.
after? No, yeah, it is after his birthday. So
yeah, but they're not playing that anyway, so it
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
sure.
They have the major.
Yeah,
that's
true.
the next thing.
But yeah,
after
his 16th birthday is in 3 weeks, and I don't think anybody has like a 17 or 18-year-old outside of E-League who used to have that. Or so that was 17, I think, right? Really?
Yeah, so, or maybe even 18. I'm not sure, but it was something like
I think it was 17.
that.
But yeah, since he's going to be 16 in a little bit over 3 weeks, I don't think that matters anymore.
And
that's probably why they brought him in now.
HLTV.org.
Sorry?
He's a pugger.
Like, hardly any. That's it. They've just picked up just a little pugging kid to replace their in-game leader.
He's still been impressing like the rankest.
I mean, complexity with I don't know. I didn't hear anything about Ricky's visa, so I'm presuming that
he's got it.
He's got it.
Yeah, he tweeted about it. Hold up.
Then I missed it. So at least that is, I guess, settled, so they can actually practice for a week or something before ECS, depending on when that got cleared. But still, can't really expect much of them right away. Did we get it?
He's update approved. Oh yeah, I saw that.
Oh yeah,
a while ago too.
Yeah, so I think him and Gratis Factions kind of came through at the same time, maybe.
Could be, I guess.
Because Grat was here, so it maybe almost worked at a very similar time. But yeah, I think what this means is less about what the potential of this kid is, because we've seen what's been happening. It's more about like complexity now that they're part of the Dallas Cowboys, right? Or I guess I don't know the whole deals
investment
situation,
something.
Yeah, but basically they have this new facility. You've probably seen like stories from like Moses or like going out there and checking out. And this facility is like a state-of-the-art facility. That would be geared towards some of the best Counter-Strike teams in the world. And no offense to the current complexity roster, they wouldn't fit into that same discussion. So maybe this facility and picking up this kid is like a step for the future. Maybe they want to build around him. I don't know. But I'm just curious as to changing your in-game leader, right? Apparently Def is calling. Someone in chat said that's the situation. Going into a tournament with that whole guise is quite a big change to happen. Like, obviously, this is something that's been going on behind the scenes because there's been rumors about it and whatnot. But it just seems weird to me. Like, this is one of the only opportunities Complexity is going to have to be able to compete at this kind of a level, and they've gone for a roster change going into it. So that's curious.
Do we know what's going on with Stan? Like,
Played an ESEA game against him about a week ago.
Okay.
Oh, how did that go?
Useworthy.
Let me check. Hold up. I think we lost.
The thing is, this is like the classic NA org announcement where there's fucking nothing said about like who's going out or why, or no, like unless it's on the site and they didn't link it, which is also stupid, by the way.
They didn't even say directly that he's playing.
Exactly, like
he'll be gearing up to put his talent on display alongside the team. Complexity is he in the team or is he alongside, just like on the sidelines, playing a pug?
Their website there's not even like, it doesn't even have any news. Like,
if we keep it really vague and we don't really say anything, then we can basically say whatever we want. That's the really cool thing.
The thing is, like, I like knowing Complexity. I'm sure they're going to talk about it in their whatever it is, the podcast type thing, the press conference. I think it's called.
Yeah, or the vlog series.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, I mean it's basically like a podcast though. I'm sure they're going to talk about it, but like the actual announcement fucking sucks. And it feels like it just happens way too much with North American orgs, especially in general in esports, and it's annoying as hell for somebody who actually tries to write something informative about it, because like we literally have nothing to go off outside of the facts of how long a player has been with a team or where he's going next or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just there's such a lack of information.
I mean, technically they didn't say anything, but we'll see.
Well, we'll make our assumptions.
Well, that's the problem. They didn't say anything.
All right, we got a couple more breaking news situations. This one isn't so breaking anymore, but Sonic joining Envious or Envy. We yayin or we nay in that situation?
I guess yay, because I didn't see JDM. Sure, like he's been having like some good performances here and there, at least from what I saw. They obviously didn't really play too much that was important, but they played in Pro League, great. I think that's where I saw them.
Yes.
And so like to bring in somebody who probably has a little bit more potential than JDM, who's kind of like been stagnant for quite a while. I think I would say yay, although even I'm not that massive about Sonic either.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a cool thing to have a South African, not American.
Yes.
South African.
I was gonna say
in a North American team, just having a talent get an opportunity to play on maybe a bit of a better team. Other than that, like, I don't know. I mean, he was the best player, I think, on the whole Project Destiny thing all of the time. So cool for them. Envy, like, I'm not impressed by them yet. Didn't really watch them much. Didn't really have anywhere to watch them that was very relevant. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's a small yay.
They did lose in their debut with him in the Chicago qualifier.
Yeah, they lost to
an absolute nobody team.
Some randoms.
So that happened. But yeah, I think it's a good move. I think that Nifty's surrounding the project with people who are like-minded, like keen individuals, making sure people are really on that same mindset. I think that's important. Having spoken to him when we did Blast in Madrid, and obviously he was just there in Dallas, so I had a bit of a chat to him there. So I think it's a good move. Obviously, it's a very, very tough ladder to climb from the position that they're going to find themselves in, but he could bring something new and something fresh. So that's a curious one to keep an eye on. I think we're probably done with the breaking news. Got anything else?
No.
Okay, cool. Well, let's keep on moving. We're going to go into CS Summit. This will be another quick one because we did the show last time around just before the finals. So we had already spoken about pretty much everything up until that point. And then we had all the action go down on the final day where we had... Was it the two semis?
We had the two semis and then the final.
Right? Yeah. So we had all that situation going. So there was a lot of Counter-Strike to be played on that day. Obviously, Vitality were the team to take it in the end there. And I think Zabu was the MVP. A lot of people were crediting Apex for having a good tournament, all that kind of stuff. But do we think that it was maybe a lack of... What's the word? Maybe a little bit more of a looser mindset from the likes of ENCE and Liquid in that one, knowing they were going straight into Dallas?
I think potentially, yeah. It still doesn't really take away from what Vitality did, because taking down ENCE and Liquid, actually, like both... No, they went 1-1 with ENCE and they beat Liquid in 2-0 in group stage as well. So to go 4-0 against Liquid and 3-2, I think 3-2 it was against ENCE, over the course of two series, basically. That's still a pretty big achievement, whether or not those teams were in full focus. Sure, I would imagine there's something to it that Liquid and ENCE weren't potentially in it as much as they were for an IM Sydney or DreamHack Masters Dallas, whatever. That obviously Liquid both won. So yeah, I can see that that has some merit to it.
I guess we could also talk about overall though, Prof, like their form. Does their form attest? Their form is a bad question. Does what we see them display in the server lead us to believe they could be a top 5 team in the world? Right now they're ranked 4th, but obviously there's a reason for that. There's been a lot of decay, MIBR not attending tournaments, Navi, etc.
Yeah, I think like a top 5 in what we generally think of a top 5 team that is not Vitality right now. Like, you don't really see them. For me, like a real top 5 team is a team that can compete for titles, like big events on a regular basis, and I don't think Vitality are there yet. But of course, you have some times where the top 5 is a bit weaker, sometimes a bit stronger, and I think this is one of those points where it's a bit stronger. Obviously, like Navi fell down because they made a roster change, had a few bad events, and then few events they didn't attend. Just simply, if they literally finished like 10th at IM Sydney, they probably have more points than they have now. So it's just that they decided to not go to anywhere. So I think overall they still have some weird issues in terms of consistency that they probably have to fix out on the long run, and maybe just a bit too over-reliant on Zyvu, even though through their interviews they kind of want to like undermine that and say like, oh, it's not that much about them. We're still telling him how to play and stuff like that. But obviously, like the big wins come off of his back, right?
Yeah, when he runs up banana and kills everybody, you really didn't tell him.
I mean,
to
fucking
do that,
hell,
so.
He did twice in the last week, like basically the same play. That was like equally just as impossible in both cases. Basically, it's just that was a crazy thing.
I think that Vitality, watching them, I think like they have a lot of potential, but you can see they're very start of the round game plan orientated. They don't have. It didn't seem like they had good mid-round decision making. Didn't seem like they knew what to do when their plans got stifled. If they went to do something that didn't work, it was like an all-in. It didn't feel like they had the same level of mid-rounding going on there, which is a problem. Is a bit of a problem. And
I feel like it has gotten better with Alex though. With Alex starting to game lead, I feel like they've gotten a little bit better at that. Because when the NBK started,
out by Furia like that.
I'm sorry?
They got blown out of the water by Furia, right? Like, obviously now we're bleeding into the Dallas conversation, but I think with Vitality overall, the way that they lost to Furia just showed me that they didn't really have another game plan that wasn't their own, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with that. But I mean, I guess it's a work in progress. It's hard to fault them for, even though it is Furia, who obviously haven't really shown that much beforehand. I mean, results-wise at least, like we always knew that they had potential. But yeah, in terms of Vitality though, I feel like they have gotten better at those mid-rounds. I did see the same thing when NBK was calling at most maps. He obviously still calls on Inferno, but outside of that, I did see him more as the start of the round call strat or whatever. This is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna stick to it. We're not gonna change much most of the time. So with Alex, I think that's gotten a little bit different. But I would imagine they still have most of the same playbook. So it's probably gonna take Alex a little bit more time to kind of take over the leadership side of it, where he actually starts to form play style around his style of calling and not just use whatever NBK was doing. So I think it could take them a little bit longer for them to use that the mid rounding a little bit better. But I'm not sure if Alex actually is that type of an in-game leader. So I guess time will tell.
Essentially, what NBK said is that he's still kind of the leader conceptually, but the calling in the game is done by Alex. So I don't think he even.
I'm not even sure.
A lot of these things probably change behind the scenes. We're not even aware of it. So, but from what he said is something along the lines of NBK is making the structure, defining the style of play and stuff like that. So it's not like Alex can really even change it since he's not doing it. I mean, according to what they said.
I would be surprised if he didn't have a big say though. Considering he has to call it and he has to be comfortable with calling what they have. He has to have a lot of input. There's no way he doesn't.
I think that just touching on the topic about a captain and a in-game leader type thing, right? I think if you look at Ents, Alu is the captain of that team, right? He might not be the one doing the interviews. Hltv is the one who tends to be grabbing the microphone. But I think that Alu is the spiritual embodiment of that team, right? He is the veteran, he's the experienced one. They would all look to him with a lot of respect for what he's achieved in his career. So I would say that he's the captain of that bunch. Now, obviously, certain teams talk about certain things more than others. Vitality being vocal about this. I don't know if it's an issue. I think it's probably better for Nathan just to continue being that secondary type of in-game leader like he has been for a big chunk of his career. And if Alex actually had some very good impact in a few of their more important games, because I was looking, obviously, when I was prepping for their game against Furia, I was looking at the stats, and because they had a couple of games versus weaker opponents where they were just able to get it done. When the games that they had a harder time, the North games where they actually had to win, they had Alex having better performances, right? So I think that he's pivotal. He's still quite new to this whole thing. He's only 23. So we'll see where they go. I think I'm
not entirely sure regarding Alex's performance. I'm not entirely sure that it's sustainable. I'm not even sure how he's doing it, because whenever I watch him, I feel like he's not as mechanically skilled as any of the players on the team, maybe aside from RPK. Because we all know NBK has very good moments where he just shows off quite a lot of skill, considering that he's been kind of an anchor type player who doesn't really get to show off too much most of the time. So Alex has definitely been the second worst in terms of skill, but he keeps delivering. So there has to be something that he keeps doing right, at least at these last couple of events, basically since he started calling. So maybe that's what's fitting him a little bit more. His positions are the way that he approaches attacks, from which position and stuff. I imagine that's changed a little bit. Actually, it has changed a little bit from what I saw. So I guess that's fitting him a little bit better. But I'm still not sure that this kind of level that he's showing at these last two events is actually sustainable for him.
Yeah, I think they peaked in the rankings as well, right? I think that they earned it because they were competing and they won a tournament. But I don't think that I would, if you asked me to rank teams right now, they would struggle to be in my top 10.
It's definitely hard to see. Well, top 10 is kind of rough. I feel like that there's no way they're outside of that, right? Even potentially like for everybody
close,
that's outside
right?
of it, they're probably going to be somewhere like wherever, maybe eight, 9 or something. Whenever like all the teams that we expect to be good actually get to that point.
Sure. I think like right now, Renegades are a team outside of the top 10 by circumstance.
Yeah.
I think if this Gratisfaction shit didn't happen, they wouldn't be in that position right now. They'd be within the top 10. I think Fnatic and NIP, I'm going to put them in the same boat. They're always just going to be a baseline. I know Fnatic was in the final of IEM Sydney, but I see no base in that team that they're building on. Like I see like Fluxes, great. I don't see a solid base that will win them games against teams that they should be beating. They lost to Furia and then they lost to Renegades. And I think that Renegades, with the limited amount of time they actually had, Gratisfaction flew from New Zealand to Dallas to play in Dallas. How much Tier 1 Counter-Strike do you cunts think he's playing in New Zealand? Let me give you the hot tip. Fucking zero. So the fact that he had a slow first day, I let the kid off the hook. Now they have a bit of a break, but I guess that Renegades were at that event as well, so they obviously had Smooth standing in. We can probably snowball our conversation forward, because unless you guys have much to say about
we're talking
Summer,
about like
I just wanted to touch
so.
on Vitality. Do you think RPK has a long-term spot in this team?
Probably not.
I don't know.
Like, what is from your point of view? What does he bring to kind of have a spot in this team that wants to be like now peaked at number 4? Obviously, wants to stay there, and he is not like statistically not the greatest player. From what I heard about him as a player, he's not like the smartest, throwing nades and being like mega prepared for opponents type of player either. So I'm not really sure what he brings.
I'll give you an answer that's a cop-out answer, but it's the truth.
Okay.
And it's unfortunate that this is the case within the French Counter-Strike scene. But he buys into the project. He's on board. He's not out there being a fucking egotistical cuck.
I think that's the important part, yeah. That he's kind of like they can throw a lot of the shit kind of shit rolls on him, and he's gonna be okay with it because he seems to be like, I don't know, fairly versatile in that sense that he can just like, you can throw him in like passive positions that nobody wants to play. So yeah, I feel like in that case, but if ever there's an option for Vitality to pick up somebody who plays the same spots, like the anchor type, that is better than him skill wise, I feel like Vitality will probably start considering it whenever they plateau or whenever they stop improving. Yeah.
There's definitely French players, right? There's no doubt about there being like French individuals who could do that kind of a role. I think the biggest
Keo
thing
is not the one, by the way. I just literally saw somebody mention him in chat that he's not that player.
Look, it would be good.
He's not a direct replacement for RPK in any way.
It would be good if they could find someone, but I think the most important thing for the French scene right now is having 5 individuals who can all buy into the same project.
Sure.
And that has been their biggest problem for a long period of time, right? Because they've been changing between the same old guard and they tried new people, and now they realize like there needs to be a whole new approach to the game. While they were trying to do these things, the game was evolving and changing. The French, not as far back as the Polish right now. Like, I think if you did it in like levels of stubbornness, it'd be the Poles, then maybe the Swedes, but the Swedes have just been lucky to hold on because the Swedes have always been fucking sick. Then probably the French. Then who's really stubborn? Well, the Danes definitely aren't. They're changing rosters like they change fucking underwear. I don't know. That's probably it. Those 3 regions were always pretty stubborn, right? So yeah, they have to be out there. But I think, I get what you're saying about RPK. And if he could have, I think he is very playstyle dependent. If he can play a position on a map where he doesn't have to move, like I know that sounds ridiculous, but if he can play like if the game wasn't so rotation and map territory heavy like it obviously is right now, he would be sick because he could just sit there and kill everybody. But unfortunately
it's
now,
an old playstyle though. Yeah.
Yeah, it is an old playstyle, so it's outdated. He has to learn how to change, or I don't know.
I mean, honestly, like looking at his age, he probably will never change. But I like your answer. Like that angle is something I didn't think about originally, so it makes sense. Just have someone that won't make a mess. It's just like someone that's gonna be there, show up, play the game, and like not bitch and moan about anything. So
But basically, the point is that the current constellation of players that Vitality have has likely peaked. We don't expect this to ever become the best team in the world unless they make some changes. Because just consider this, right? Apex is very volatile, not only because of his role. He's obviously quite a lot at the front and just generally very aggressive. Although that might be part of the problem. I guess he just doesn't really know when to stop sometimes. So that's the problem, right? That you already have one volatile player. Alex and NBK have like very good moments a lot of the time, it feels like now, but also not expected to be like the secondary star of the team. Well, not most of the time. NBK has kind of become that, I feel like, now, but I'm not entirely sure that that it's entirely sustainable. RPK is like the passive player who's just not gonna show much, whether he's in form or not. He's just not in that position really. And Zeo is obviously the swing player who's just gonna decide games for you. So just based on that, you can kind of tell that unless Zeo just becomes like this fucking god, like above simple type player, then they're not gonna win tournaments. Not consistently anyway.
I don't know. Like I got a chance to watch like Hadji a bit. This is a while ago now. It wasn't any time recently. I think like he's not a bad French. Well, we could probably theory craft French players for a while here, but yeah, I think exactly what you just said. So let's keep this barreling forward. Move on to the DreamHack discussion because a lot of our conversation was bleeding into that anyway.
Yeah.
So obviously, Liquid. Look, let's just talk about this tournament in the broad strokes, and then we're going to dig into everything. Because if you missed it, the tournament, with all the teams and the way the groups went, if you looked at it, it went as planned, right?
It was very satisfying in how it went, for sure.
It was like almost everything you'd want. The two best teams in the final playing off against each other, great. Faze and G2 having an absolute banger of a series, showing some of the renaissance that Anders was calling it, as a bit of like we were watching Counter-Strike from a couple of years ago.
Just gonna touch on that, right? Like people saying that like all of the old players are back. Just look at how GetRight did at the tournament.
Oh, it's very selective
it's not.
when Anders says that kind of stuff. So it doesn't have to make sense. He just says it.
Exactly.
but all the results.
I feel like that's like the motto that we should just attribute to Anders from now on.
Because he just loves Anders loves the reaction, right?
How did you say it? It doesn't always have to make sense, but Anders says it or something. Yeah. But that's kind of the mantra that we should have regarding Anders all the time.
I love talking to Anders. You end up down some absolute rabbit holes of thought.
Yeah. And it only takes like 5 minutes, literally. It's like, hey, what are you eating? It's a sandwich yet? And then it's like, where the fuck? What the fuck?
Where am I now?
So just on this, on the way it all played out, it was as expected, right? There was obviously some upsets, like teams that you may have thought should have made it to the playoffs didn't. But at the same time, the middle pack, like the middle chunk of teams, was actually quite highly contested, right? I think like the wiggle room was very small. There was you had one upset / dark horse team that everyone could get behind as the underdog. That was Furia. That was great. Now I want to just say this because the three of us, and even when we had Banks on the show, we all knew Furia had some legit shit to offer, right? We knew that the individuals were skilled. We knew that they had a quirky take on the game. We always knew that was there. So for people to be so surprised by that happening, I think I predicted them to beat NRG, right? And then I actually predicted them to beat Fnatic as well.
Yeah.
Because I think their play style against individuals who are very teams who are very individual frag based, going 1-for-1 with those guys with their pace, they snowball, they find gaps, they'll fucking trap. Let's start with Furia.
I think that's the biggest surprise for sure.
Yeah,
so let's go.
For me, I think that it's not a surprise for us. I think maybe it's a surprise to see how far they got. I think it's a surprise to see Vitality completely crumble like that in a quarterfinal, considering the pedigree of their players versus the first big event ever for this Furia roster to be at in that regard. So there's those factors there. But the thing, I don't want to detract from it because I think they did fantastically well. What I want them to be able to do is grab their quirky style and blend it with the current more well-balanced meta. Because you could see in certain situations that they're trying to force things that aren't going to work. Obviously, that is their playstyle, so sometimes it does work, sometimes it doesn't. But if they could find a mix between, being balls to the wall Counter-Strike and then, understanding the fundamentals of CT side rotations, etc., then we're talking. Then we have in my mind, regardless of the situation, they're the second best Brazilian team.
Yeah,
definitely. I don't think there's much to be discussed about that. But yeah, I think you touched on the Fnatic game and teams that want to go just try and do like the default stuff. That game on Mirage was just like so hilarious to watch, like Fnatic trying to get mid control, and then Furia just constantly pushing, going like pushing short, pushing connector, guy jumping out window, not jumping out window, spamming through the smoke. Literally, Fnatic was so destroyed they didn't understand what was going on, because people don't play like that at this tier right now. So it was pretty funny to watch. And overall, just their play style has so many like meta challenging takes. Like, they're not a team that just goes and like watches Astralis and like copies everything they do, because that is the easy way, I feel like.
They create their own shit for sure.
Yeah,
like, look at Art's like consider like his play towards like on Nuke, when they just smoke out of door, and he just hides behind that smoke and just like uses a gap above the vent basically, and just looking into the rafters. Like, that's a play that I haven't seen from anybody else, and it's just kind of a crazy play that you probably wouldn't see anybody else do, because it's kind of like, it's risky as fuck, but he's just like kept doing it and somehow kept succeeding at it as well.
I thought you were going to talk about, like, they did this one round where they throw the smoke, right, the same one as if they're going to vent dive, and then he has a Mach 10. And he literally just runs straight through the smoke in a topside and kills a guy. Like, I would just fucking punch my monitor. I'd be like, what the fuck is this cunt doing? I honestly think, now, I just said I honestly think, so let me try this again. I would like to think that they're just like fucking smoking some wacky tobacco, sitting in a smoke, doing their fucking like thing while the coach walks by, coming up with strats, and then they're all just like, fuck yeah, and then they've got these like weird ideas. Because to think about this shit, right, like, you can be a person who's like a little bit off from like the current meta, but what you study in Counter-Strike has to come from like your roots. Like, you have to understand the game your own special way to be able to, exactly what you said, like challenge the meta or have meta challenging ideas. Because like, there was a one play we highlighted on Overpass. I don't understand why they reacted like this. Like, it felt like it was their game plan the entire time, but it was Overpass. Quesarado was over towards the B-bomb site on the T side, and he gets 2 kills. Alu and fucking Ariel or some shit, they try to push Monster for info, for kills, whatever, and he kills both those guys. What happens next is 2 trades happen. He gets pushed and he dies, and then a connector player tries to smoke off connector and then run towards A because they're just going long. Connector player dies. So it's 3 guys, and they're running in. They know there's a player connector. They know there's 2 guys B because they've just had to force that rotation. And by the time they get to A, they were like, honestly, they were like half a second, a split second too late. But their plan was, if they ran site, they know they have to worry about bathrooms and site. They had set smoke so that they could actually smoke off and run straight into bank. The problem is, when they got to bank, fucking Alexi B and X7, I think it was, were already upstairs and in A site. So their entire plan got fucked. But they wanted to get bank control, kill the rotators, and then plan for CT and hold it from there. But lots of teams don't do that. I see teams run into this, and they go so awkward at the moment. They run into that fucking gauntlet. They're having to watch 7 different spots. A cunt's coming from bathrooms. There's a guy pushed out to truck. Someone's jiggling from bank. You got no territory. But these guys are like thinking it's a very smart step, right? And I get the logic behind it, but you don't see many teams at any level doing those kind of plays. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, but that is one of those rounds which just like got like burned into my memory. Like, who does that shit? This is the interesting thing. And they almost had the round. I think they didn't win it, and they didn't win a lot of these rounds where they do the extra step and then they fuck up because you don't get into those situations like as many times to get everything down, and then you make like small misplays and then you lose the round. There was similar something on Nuke. I don't remember the game like against which opponent, but they pushed lobby with 3 or 4 guys, and then there was no one there, and then they stacked the lower bomb site with 4 people against like 4 Ts coming on, and they literally didn't know where to stand because they had too many people on the lower bomb site, and they had like some awkward.
That was against Liquid, right? Or Nuke?
I think it was Liquid. Yeah, it was. They had some like awkward setup on the B bomb site, and they literally everyone lost. They had like 1-2 kills going.
That was one of the late rounds for sure. It was like I remember that for sure.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was like a 14-13 or some shit.
Yeah, it was very late, and then Liquid won. Like even though they went into a fucking stack.
Yeah, 4 people on the B bomb.
They had weird
like,
angles.
You should never
in that side. Yeah.
So stuff like that.
They should never have lost it.
But that is, I think, one of their issues is like you can't really. It's very hard to get good at those situations, which you can almost never practice. It's a lot of like the on the fly, crazy calls. And the other thing is, I think a lot of these like crazy ideas, they take time to develop. Obviously, you can't just come up. I mean, if they can, that would be impressive, but I don't think you can. Just like, I don't know, get the smoke that you can like peek on two sides and stuff like that. Get enough of that to consistently have new things for every tournament. I think that's going to be their biggest issue, because just now they finished top 4. For ECS, people will be preparing, going through their demos, especially because they're interesting to watch because they have new things. And of course, they finish high. They're like 11th in the world right now. So you have to take time to go and watch their demos. So it's going to be, I think it's a lot of those things are going to be fairly easy to counter. So it's up to them to either play a more passive default meta style or make up new things.
Or just go insanely ham and just like take it to the next
Or
level.
just like do more of that shit, like where Art has a Mach 10 and then just rushes short on Mirage, kills 2 guys and wins you the round.
The thing is, like, even though
in 15 seconds the round is over.
The thing is, like, even though you can read a lot of that stuff, you're still going to get a little bit surprised, like, when you get into that match, like, because, like, you've played maybe, like, 5 different teams ahead of them. Let's say that, right? Like, you've played 5 teams ahead of them at a tournament, and they've all played, like, this like, reasonable, sensible kind of style of Counter-Strike, and suddenly you just get into this match with Furia. So let's say you don't really have that much preparation, like, right before the match. You get into this match, and you just get obliterated anyway, because, like, even though you know that they're doing crazy shit, just because, like, that split-second decision that you should have made, you should have made because they're just crazy, but you didn't because you were just used to this other style for the past couple of games. Like, this is still going to be an issue for teams against Furia, no matter how much they learn about them.
That is a very good point. I think, like, especially if you're only competing against the same style. Like, back when I was playing, when we would come over for sporadic tournaments, it was fantastic to run the strats that I'd made at home because they were so, like, fast-paced and, like, the team didn't know them, so they weren't able to react to them. Whereas now, if you do a fast out strat on train, for example, everybody knows how to react to that. Like, if you're the guy who's, like, meant to be the bomb train player and the smoke comes down, okay, your position is to cover this area, this guy covers this. Everyone knows how to react now. So, like, there are still certain executes and certain scrimmy strats that you can throw at people that are going to work, and I think Furia had a couple of those go their way. I think that if they can develop their game a lot more, they're not going to get much time to do that, right? Let's be honest, they're going into ECS, they've got Cologne. This is a stretch for them where we work out how can they improvise on the fly, or are they going to get figured out instantly? So if they can continue to innovate, then I can see them being the team on the cusp of the top 10. It's going to be very difficult to break into the top 10 this year, like, consistently. Like, they might have blips. They might go into, like, 9 and then drop out and, whatever. But I think it's going to be difficult to maintain a top 10 position for them.
I'm just curious. I know I'm jumping ahead. I'm just curious how they're going to play against Astralis, because they are about to play them in the opening match at ECS. And it's just going to be such an interesting clash, I feel like. I wonder if Astralis are going to be...
I'd run at it, man. Just fucking run at it.
Exactly.
Think about
like,
how
I imagine Furia will
are.
just go absolutely insane because, like, they probably have no other choice. I'm just curious about that. Just jumping ahead again. But
that's probably one of the more
to
exciting
Masters.
ECS matches. But
definitely.
We'll put a pin in Furia for now.
I have just one more like final thought on them regarding all that we just touched on, that they need like a lot of things need to add a lot of things to their game continually. Their upcoming schedule is a kind of a nightmare, because now they're going to ECS. From ECS, they fly back to NA. They play MDL, MDL League, and then they play the America's Minor Closed Qualifier. And after that, they fly directly back to Lisbon for the Moke XL LAN. Then they fly back for the ESCA Mountain Dew League playoffs, and they fly back to ESL1 Cologne. And that's 2 months
back and forth.
Welcome to hell.
They live in Miami though, so it's like not that big of a flight, but still.
Regardless,
it's gonna be rough.
This is a different ball game now, right? Like, welcome to the big leagues kind of thing, because before they obviously weren't doing this, and a lot of those tournaments aren't necessarily tier 1 tournaments. Some of them are, some of them aren't, obviously. But this is where we're going to see how they cope. Like, traveling and being fresh, and that's all part and parcel of this. They all are effects. Like, we don't talk about them as much because you can't quantify it. Like, I can't tell you how fucking Rain is feeling or some shit. Like I can't do that. That's not my job. I don't, sit there and fucking do all that kind of bullshit. Did he have a good flight? Did he get enough sleep? That's not we can only tell you what's going on the server. So, but those things are factors that are going to come on in here. So let's see where they end up after that little stint before the play break. Hopefully they qualify for the minors and can have another crack at the whole major situation. That'd be good news. Where are we at here? So let me go through some of these teams. You guys stop me.
Faze for sure is one that we should talk about.
Well, let's get rid of as many of these as we can, right? Let's get some quick comments on these. Lucid Dreams. A couple of quick comments.
Great potential, awesome team. Will make a lot of, I don't know. Let's just move on.
Okay,
Waves.
So nothing about Lucid Dreams. Cloud9. Do we dare? Do we dare?
Cloud9 made the top 30, by the way.
Oh shit!
Somehow.
I mean, they were bound to They were bound to do it at some point because they just keep getting invited, and they live in North America, so going through qualifiers is not that hard there. So they're just bound to come back.
They finished last again. Even Automatic didn't even have a good tournament this time.
That's literally their winning condition is Automatic being a god. So
there we're going to put Cloud9 in the same pile that we put Virtus Pro. We don't ever talk about them again until they actually do something, so we'll just leave them over there. Isurus, whatever, zero fucks given on that one. Tyloo, they fucking suck. Windigo had a stand-in.
Regarding Tyloo, I feel like the rumors that we heard about changes with Freeman potentially coming in, and I think there was another one that I forgot.
Right?
That was the rumor. I'm not sure if that was actually true, because he's since created like some Mongolian team. Or maybe at least he was playing the qualifiers for the Asia Minor. Don't think they were successful.
Well, he's fucked up.
They
right? He can't play for another team now that he played for. If he played for a team, right?
Oh yeah, that's true.
I would have to brush up on swap before the minor, right? That's the.
Can he?
I'm trying to. Yeah,
it's the roster lock. It doesn't matter if you played it in a minor qualifier. It's just the roster lock that counts.
That's possible.
Fair enough.
What else we got?
Windigo. Windigo
had a stand-in.
Hard to. I mean, for them to not finish last with a stand-in, I feel like that's
pretty impressive.
Accomplishment enough. Yeah.
Well, they beat Tyloo, right? I heard a rumor that Tyloo were getting bought by Genji, the Korean organization.
Genji,
League of Legends.
I think it's called.
Yeah,
something like that.
Something like that. But obviously that hasn't happened yet, so we'll see if anything's going on there.
Isn't that a Korean org though?
Yeah. Well, if it was me, I'd buy Excurate, I'd buy Benta, I'd get Freeman. I'd even throw fucking Kaze in there, because why the fuck not? And I'd get someone else who's good, who speaks.
Just get people, yeah, exactly. Just get people. Maybe keep somebody, because he seems to be the best out of the bad ones at English. Just keep him, Benta and Excurate, and just get two people that can speak English.
Yeah,
somebody is crazy.
Excurate hasn't been great though.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I feel like it's all kind of a big part of it is down to the system or lack thereof, and just that team is just being completely confusing. So it's really hard to say how much Excurate would be looking better if there was a different sort of system in place, and if everybody had a good communication, because that's just not the case.
There's a couple of teams here that we can throw into the same boat. So NRP, will throw that discussion on one side purely because of the whole fucking stand-in situation.
Yeah, same.
So I don't even want to get started on that. That's not worth our time. But I think NRG...
one thing that I'm going to give Pita, though, he had a couple of matches that were actually pretty damn good.
Yeah. I think it's always a very
not
tough
damn good,
job.
but considering expectations, against Tyloo and against, I think, Vitality, both Dust 2 games, he was actually
maybe
decent in both, which is very surprising to me.
Maybe he can go and join Ancient and lead that team to a minor or something like that.
Yeah.
Not even joking. Potentially could.
So let's I think Renegades we could probably skip as well.
I think a lot of what we said on the last show regarding them kind of came true, and something that I also wrote in the preview, which is that basically the gang is back. Sure, that's a very good thing, but considering that they've literally learned it maybe a week before the tournament or something, they probably weren't able to practice much anyway. So we didn't expect big things from them. They kind of finished around the point where we expected them to. So yeah, that's not a big surprise in any case.
Okay, so now these are the ones that are interesting. We'll go from least interesting to most interesting. let's start with the Fnatic
North.
and NRG.
Oh,
We'll maybe
I
even do
forgot about them.
together. I think that they're almost suffering the same kind of symptoms. I think that the potential of individuals on both of these teams is quite high, but I don't think their base level of Counter-Strike to build on is a solid foundation. And it just sounds like I'm throwing buzzwords around, so if you want me to actually explain it better, you fucking viewers, what I mean is they can play Counter-Strike to the level of, yeah, like Broline can kill everybody, or Crims can kill everybody, Breeze can run around and own everybody. But they might play to that too much. They don't have the fundamentals of an ENT. They don't have the understanding of what needs to change if their game plan's not working. Both of these teams are heavily dependent on individuals getting 4 kills or winning a clutch. And I think, if you look at their games at Star Series Season 7 in China, in Shanghai,
Yeah, 7.
that you watch those games, they're super close games, but watch what the factors are. The factors is not good Counter-Strike, right? The factor is exciting Counter-Strike. And exciting Counter-Strike comes from individuals doing things that they probably shouldn't normally be able to do. So both of those teams, I know Fnatic just made it to the final. I know they're in the final in Shanghai. I know that whole peak situation is there. But I think that they have an inherent problem that their level of CS, NRG one is even more confusing because they replaced their weakest link, and now they have Tarek, who should be a wealth of experience as well as a good individual, and they don't seem to be getting any better. They just seem to be treading water.
Yeah, I mean they even lost a lot of the consistency that they had before. That is the thing. But they used to be a team that could at least make it to like the top 8 of a 16-team tournament almost every time, and now they don't look as a team that can do it at all.
Well, they have done it a bunch of times already, even with Tarek a couple of times. Anyway, at Star Series and at, well, whatever they pretended with before, I've forgotten since. But I feel like what you were talking about regarding Fugly being the weakest link, yeah, that was true, but this is kind of the problem that we saw coming when Fugly was replaced by Tarek, which was the role exchange, which is obviously, like, they're both very, very different players. And NRG has to deal with that. Like, now that they have, like, another aggressive one, instead of Fugly, who was kind of like, well, a little bit of a bitch of the team, alongside with Daps, I guess. But still, like, obviously you wanted to put the focus on Breezy, Ethan and Cirque. So those two were there to kind of play the bitch roles around them. And now with Tarek being in that team, I'm not entirely sure that he was going to be up for playing some of those roles. So, and he doesn't really, he is still quite aggressive. So yeah, I feel like that's a little bit of the problem, and that they need to rethink what style they want to play if they don't really have those two bitch roles around them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they need to kind of readdress their approach to CS. Do we have anything more on these teams, or keep going?
Not really. Keep going.
All right, let's get to the exciting stuff. Actually, fuck everything. Let's just go straight to the most exciting one. Faze.
Let's go.
Prof, I know you got a lot to say.
I don't know. I mean,
a lot to say.
obviously playing a lot better. All of Meister, what the fuck is that? Like peak 2015, not peak 2015, but like average 2015 maybe.
That's like the winning condition, right? That we saw for this team. Like if Neos come in, Rain and Wolof have to step up from their. They had a pretty bad period for the past couple of months. So yeah, that's exactly what we thought would need to happen for Faze to do well, and it did. So it's that's interesting.
Yeah, more tactical, obviously. Neo doing, I guess, his job, but at the same time, there is one thing about DreamHack events that is specific, and that is that coaches can talk in the freeze time. So that is something that also for the Furia team maybe also played a part with their coach over there. But definitely, I feel like for Faze, with Neo just like fitting in for the time being, how much did Yanko have of an impact as a coach during all of this? Because they played a lot better than they did like in the past, I don't know, let's say just since Kerrigan left. Even the last like 2-3 months with Kerrigan, they had like such an upswing in form that I just don't feel it's reasonable to see them play like this. It just seems like an anomaly.
Really? You think the way that they played, it was like individually speaking or like strategically speaking? Or both?
I feel like the individual part is mostly, but maybe it is the part that the calling just like bumped everyone up. But it's weird to not see Nico carrying this team. It just seems like something you won't see every
We
time.
saw Olaf going back in form and Rain like before Neo came in though, so I feel like
Olaf was never like one. What was the last event that was close to this?
No, he was good in Sydney and Miami both. That was pre-Neo. That's the thing. Like this is like the third event in a row that he's been solid. So sure, not this kind of solid. Well, maybe not. What am I thinking of? Sydney as much because he had two really good events.
I am Sydney was 1.13, but that was the event they played without Nico, so I didn't really like pay attention to that, obviously. And then they this is a 1.11. Blast Miami is 1.8. That's like an okay. And other than that, everything is like in the red.
What I'm saying is like compared to how he played before, which was like the worst player on the team basically.
Yeah.
He's definitely been looking up for since then. So it's not even the Neo part that's putting him up there. So yeah.
There's obviously something going. There's obviously some reason for it, right? And I think if you look at, I would need to break down the stats a little bit more and maybe rewatch some games. But on the T sides is where I think Nico comes alive, and on the CT sides is where we finally see what we should have been seeing from FaZe the entire time. The fact that they have such skilled individuals who can just erect a fucking wall on whatever bomb site they hold. Like Dust too, when they're in position and they're like fucking waiting. Like think about Guardian on the B bomb site in all 3 of the games that he played. It's like, all right, you want to come B? I got a fucking orb. I drop a smoke for myself. I'm fucking dancing around. I'm killing everyone. I don't give a fuck. It's like old school Guardian. Olaf in the pit, doing a fantastic job. Thank God he's using the org. Neo's using it. Guardian's using it. Rain and Nico. Use the fucking org, all right? Just use it. I know you don't like it in certain situations. I'll get on board. If you want to go aggressive, if you want to push banana, that's great. You know, you don't want to use the org. But in some places, just use the fucking org. Like, just do it. Just see how it goes.
Do it.
Just let us know. You're 2 of the best fucking riflers in the entire world. Imagine how good you'd be with a scope on that.
Look, this is something that I've told Nico a couple of times already, and he's like every single time his response was like, "Fuck no." So I don't think it's
so
happen.
Ridiculous.
I know,
man.
We've been talking about this for a long time, for like half a year, well, more than that, ever since the AUG and Krieg got changed. Well, the price got reduced. We've been talking about Nico just being religious about not using it, and that being kind of a stupid approach. I feel like YNK should just like come in with some ultimatum and just like force him to play it, just to get used to it and see how it goes. But obviously, like he doesn't want to do that because Nico is his best player, and he doesn't want to just fuck with him. So that's I guess it's understandable. It's just he's being stubborn about it.
But I think like they were the B holders, right, on Inferno. They moved things around. Rain used to be one of the swing players, right? He used to be going between the bomb sites, and now he's just sitting in that one spot helping Nico out. But when they didn't fight for banana control, they would just get swamped on that side. If they had a fucking org, I'm telling you, they might have won some rounds. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, this team overall, I don't know. I don't think I agree with you, Prof. I think that they'll be able to continue to deliver better Counter-Strike. I think like they're definitely going to be on the up. My biggest concern is not those individuals being able to stick with that form. I think they'll be able to find some good form and like stay with it. My bigger issue is how much work it looked like Neo was doing. Because as an in-game leader myself, when I was watching him in certain situations, somebody would die, and his first reaction is to pull out a grenade and go and try and maintain that spot or fill that gap or work out the next play. The amount of times I saw him like juggling grenades or like looking at someone else's screen and then dying or not being ready for a fight or being too selfless in a fight, these are all symptoms of somebody who is trying to do too much for the team. And obviously it's very new, and I think that if he's aware of that, it'll like get bred out of his playstyle when everybody becomes more comfortable. But that was one of my biggest issues. And I'm not even trying to be negative about Neo, because I think he had some good contributions in that game. I think strategically speaking, now he had to in-game lead Virtus Pro for a while. Now he has actually better tools to work with than he did back then. So I think there's positives there for sure. I just think one of the details for me that I noticed was he was getting caught off guard quite regularly. At least we caught a lot of that on observing, which is usually quite a thing. It's usually something we don't see all that often. Was that just anyone else catch that shit, or is that just me?
I mean, yeah. I've noticed it's just maybe not as much as you're saying, because it's somewhat surprising that you're talking as if it was happening all the time. I saw it maybe a couple of times, so I guess I just wasn't as focused on it. Like I didn't really notice it that much. Maybe that's why. But yeah, I mean, generally our our initial argument against Neo coming into Faye was obviously his individual performance, but as long as Olaf and Vayne are able to contribute as much as they have been, I feel like that's not going to be an issue. And even if he's playing too much for the team or anything, like you say, like he's got the tools. Like as long as he has the tools, like as long as those four can contribute on a consistent basis, like Neo being this like 0.95, 0.90 rating player, as long as he stays there, I feel like that's okay. Because he has the stars to work with. He just needs to kind of learn how to do it, I guess.
Yeah. Do we have anything else on Faze? We're almost finished the Faze train. All right. So, do you guys want to touch on G2? I guess G2 is the only one here that we really haven't looked at.
Yeah, that's true. The thing is, I don't even know how they got to how they do to the playoffs. Basically, like I don't understand how they managed to do it. I didn't think they looked any better than they did beforehand. So I'm not. I don't understand. It was, although one thing was curious. Who picked Dust2 against them? Was it FaZe?
FaZe did, yeah.
That was pretty stupid.
Well, I think it's good that FaZe are being stubborn about their home map, and also FaZe recently played them in ECS Online and they beat them 16-5. So wow, I think that a lot of that went into that decision right there. So it's probably not as simple.
It's like literally G2 every single time they can play, they pick it. So why do it into them?
Both teams would have been super happy with the first two map choices no matter what, right?
Yeah, that's
because
true.
If you were FaZe, you could have picked whatever you wanted against G2, knowing they were going to pick Dust2, and vice versa. G2 were like, well, if we don't pick Dust2, they're going to pick Dust2. So it's like we had that come up regardless in that veto situation. I agree with you. I don't think they looked any better than they have. I think they're the most up and down team that we have. They have probably not the highest peak, like in terms of all the teams, but for a team to like, I think they're a team who could be in the top 15. Yeah, they could be ranked like 14th best team in the world, but they could come top 2 at an event if everybody has a good game. Like they could just like snowball in that old school kind of play style, right? You see some vintage moments from Kenny, from Shox. I think Amanek is the best thing to come out of the French scene in a very long time. Him and Zywoo, obviously, are probably the future of French Counter-Strike.
I mean, there was a lot of talk about Shox and Kenny this tournament, but statistically, Amanek was their best player at the event.
He looks like he's a bit of a beta. Like, I'm going to be honest. He looks like a bit of a beta in certain situations. But he definitely had a lot of impact, right? Like he definitely was getting it done.
I mean, he is kind of a lurker on this team, but he did also get entries and have like impactful plays. Obviously, sometimes he's going to bait. That is kind of the nature of the role. And there is Shox and Kenny S opening up stuff. But I feel like he's doing his own thing, doing it pretty well. But I just found it kind of interesting that he didn't get like almost any praise for his work on this team at this event. I mean, kind of understandable just because Shox and Kenny are the big names. You really want them to do well, so sometimes people do force the narrative just a bit just to make it more interesting.
Well, to be fair, like they had a good tournament. Their best series, or like their most important series, which was against NRG, because they like consider this, right? They played Renegades in the opening game, which is obviously a team that only came back together, probably didn't really have too much to play together. In their normal roster that they played with, they beat them in an overtime. Then they played Ents, lost. Sure, they took Dust2 off them, but otherwise didn't really have a reasonable chance of winning the entire series. But then against NRG, the overpass game that decided it was fucking Kenny and Shox going 48 kills together, which is basically like you're not gonna win against Shox and Kenny who just go insane both at the same time. So that's the biggest thing that basically pushed them through to the playoffs, because then they played the Renegades again, and we go back to the same thing that we said at the start. And that was a really close game as well. So I guess that's how they got to the playoffs.
I mean, it's literally they only beat NRG. That was like a good team. Other than that
like
they beat Renegades twice.
Like a legit win, yeah.
That you can't really like.
That's my problem with G2, right? Like with this run especially. Like sure, they took FaZe to close, but I mean, to be fair, it was only Dust2 that was close. Like people were talking about it as an amazing series, but only Dust2 in only the second map, because it was a quadruple overtime. That was the good part about it, because on Inferno they didn't really have a chance. So that's the thing.
Is their owner gonna go to Tibet and become a monk? What was the tweet again from Ocelot? It was something like if G2 doesn't win Pro League and Cologne
the major, the major, I think.
Yeah, they're not a clone.
Oh,
yet,
there we
at
go.
least.
If our CSGO team doesn't win ESL Pro League and the major in Berlin, I become a monk in Himalayan mountains. Kenny will do no scopes and flicks. Jax will dance you. You just don't know what's there's no fucking comments. It's so hard to read. You just don't know what's coming. We are legendary and can't be beaten. You don't understand that our wrath will be split. That's the entire tweet. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's just Carlos being Carlos. I feel like people who know a little bit of what he's like, especially like if you watch a little bit of League of Legends and how he behaves there, because he has the best team in the world at this point. That's kind of understandable. But obviously, he doesn't really have too much to base this on in terms of CSGO. He's just like riding on that League of Legends wave, and that's pretty much it. Thank you very much.
Well, what we haven't talked about the grand final, so I suppose we can do that quickly. That grand final wouldn't have been anywhere near as exciting if Liquid didn't almost throw it.
Yeah.
I think that now, with all you fucking Finnish fans in here, before you get on out my fucking throat, shut the fuck up for a second. I think that Ents are a fantastic team. I think that they are very well-rounded in their approach to the game. They have some individuals who have shown a lot of skill in recent times, and they just need to get it all together to click, and they can definitely be contending for trophies throughout the entirety of the year. We didn't have the most fantastic final from Alexi B. X7 was quietish as well. Obviously, Alu and Sergey had amazing times. Ariel just had an MVP performance to beat Astralis. I think they're a good team. I think their map pool right now is a little bit weak. I think their map pool, they might need to go and fix up a couple of little bits and pieces. Because if you're going to be playing fucking Liquid, they're not playing Train. Your best map is already out of the equation. That they probably shouldn't have even lost fucking Overpass. I don't think that game, I didn't think that series actually deserved a third map. I don't think it deserved a third map. I think that Liquid made some big mistakes in that game too to allow the game.
Last round of regulation
1v3, right?
No, also like Elise just doing some weird op push of mid, trying to get the entry, then dying.
They got snowballed on. Yeah.
That was pretty weird.
There was the Sergey 1v2 on the site. On the T side, I think he had a scout and a Glock or something. I don't
the Glock, scout Glock when he was in the bank in the city spawn area down there.
Yep.
To be honest, like even the third map on Inferno, like sure, like there was some really questionable plays there after that 10-1 point and at the start of in the pistol round. But even towards the end, like if you think about how they won it, which was basically on the back of S3.E, like hiding behind, hiding on banana behind what is it called? I call it Get Right, but it's different.
The sandbag thing.
The sandbags, yeah, that's it. Then basically getting a triple off a pop flash, basically because Ents didn't really have a molly to clear that spot that they usually would. That was just also based on luck that they actually closed out the third map on that triple kill from S3.E, or almost. I think that was like the next.
There's also the X7 1v4 to even start the comeback.
Should never have happened.
Well, yeah,
in
the
a million
pistol round,
years.
that definitely shouldn't have happened. And just generally, it was very scary from Liquid, but they did it in the end. I guess that's the important part.
The thing is, they have like a really flary playstyle. When it works, it looks sick. But there's also certain plays that they make that are like not essential by any means. There's one round that comes to mind. It was like a partial buy, and Ents ended up on the B bomb site. It was a 3-on-4. S3.E was still alive. He got smoked off at Coffins, and he was staying there. Rotation was coming in. Ents had the bomb site, and they had already one gun, and they picked up the other gun from the other defender. So they have two guns. They have three players. It's a 3v4 in the favor of Liquid. S3.E sees his teammates coming, calls for a flash, pushes with an AWP through the smoke.
Yeah. On B, right?
Dies. Now it's a 3v3. Now they have three guns. Now they have a
And
fucking
I think it was.
AWP.
I think it was even a 4v4, and he went and S3.E went into it, and then it was a 3v4 retake
wild.
B. I think that's what it is.
Whatever happened, it was like why? I'm not like criticizing.
That's why I had the S3.E play on banana
man.
stuck in my head, because he literally just lost that play on the pop flash from CT that didn't really work. Because I thought he was going to die there, and it was going to go to overtime, and then so we're going to win it from the sandbags position afterwards. So yeah, a little bit too crazy, but whatever. I guess they did it in the end.
They did it in the end, and I think that is the story of their last final in Sydney, and probably the same can be said for this one. So the next final they win, I hope they do it in cleaner fashion. Obviously, we want exciting games, but at the same time, for Liquid to be like, I guess they don't have to have clean games. when you think about MIBR winning all those tournaments, a lot of their finals weren't clean. They were come from behind. They were, stay gritty, stay in it. So I guess it doesn't matter. Whatever the viewers like, that's what we do it all. We do it for the viewers. But are we done with DreamHack Masters now?
I don't think if there's anything else. It's probably not.
But overall, it was a pretty fun event to watch. A lot of good shit going on. Props to Furia, mostly them, but also the Faze stuff. Didn't have this much fun watching a tournament in a long time, I feel like.
People said there's a question about the lack of Vertigo. I really don't feel that needs to be addressed hugely.
Well, it's kind of expected, I guess.
Yeah,
I was expecting at least 1 or 2 to be played, but not that weird.
But even when Dust 2 first came back, it didn't get welcomed into the map pool straight away. People were staying away from it. A lot more people were floating it, but people were definitely not fucking all over it like a bad rash. They definitely took their time. And when they did play it, teams looked super clunky. I think Vertigo, a lot of teams who aren't playing it now think it might get changed. But there's definitely teams who floated it, just no one had the balls to pick it.
It's also because a lot of those teams that actually play it got changed for them in the middle of Summit or just before Summit or something. So they just didn't have the time to brush up on it. So I feel like that was the main problem with Dallas. That just a lot of those teams didn't really get a lot of play time on the new one. And so that's just people were not going to risk it. Not the good teams anyway. I could have seen Furia do it, but I think they just got insta banned against them most of the time. I think they could have picked it in one series. I remember
the Vitality series.
I think it was the Vitality series, where Vitality floated it in the first one and they then banned it in the second round. So that was the only.
She said yesterday on the couch if ENCE decided to float Vertigo and ban Overpass instead, that they were, or Dust 2 or whatever, that they were going to pick it, but that one didn't come on through. So hey. It's not a big deal. I think we'll see it soon. We got lots of tournaments coming up. We're definitely going to see it in the next couple of months. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
All right. The fuck was that? Anyway, moving on to the next topic. Hey, there's fucking animals everywhere here. It's a zoo. I can't keep up with it all.
What's that cage, by the way? What is that for?
That's where the dog is. The dog's sleeping right now. So yeah.
Why is there a cage though? Is this
it's not a cage? It's like a fence you can put anywhere, so you can just
I didn't realize you could see the dog. Okay, it's lying down.
All
right. Fuck the cage. We're moving on to the minors recap. Prof, you've been keeping your eye on this shit.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the current thing. Let's see if someone big went out. Is Virtus Pro eliminated today? It's the last qualifier right now. I think they're out, man.
Are they out? Things have just started, so.
Oh, just quickly.
No, they're playing against some
boys and girls. Breaking news. This coming in 10 seconds ago by Stanislaw on Twitter. Hi guys, I've decided to step down from the active roster as I no longer feel that I'm the person to lead the team forward. Our results during my time here were inconsistent, but I'll always be proud of our top 8 finish at the Face It London Major. Full stop. That's it.
Well, yeah, at least we got some confirmation.
Yeah.
FNS, by the way, 1 minute ago, Obo should IGL.
Sure, that makes sense. Anyway, back on to VP and whether or not they're fucking out.
Yeah, they're still in it. No big teams lost so far today, but a lot of teams are fighting for the last 2 spots. Namely, let's say the French Frogs, Argo, XCOM, Epsilon, Virtus Pro, Super Jimmy, Chaos, Aristocracy, Movistar Riders.
What about Team
Copenhagen
Fiat?
Flames.
Are they playing again? Or?
Team Fiat are playing again, but I think they're eliminated. Now playing with the legendary, I cannot say his name, on a Twitch stream player, renamed into Admin's Racist.
Yeah.
Admin's Racist now.
That's great.
That's how we know.
That's great. It's fucking wild.
So other than that, what we saw so far, we obviously had the invites go out. We know it's the big European teams. The qualifiers went to No Chance and Sprout, the first one. So that's the 2 big names that they were kind of expected. Then after that, we got Gamer Legion, Magnitude. Magnitude is like the
Percy, Cyclone,
Dragonfly, and those guys. Yeah, so it's kind of the continuation of the Fragsters team after 7 roster changes. And then Tricked got in, Great Hunden, and Nordawind. Actually, they've been eliminated quite early in the first 2 qualifiers, but now they made it through, so that's good for them. But also it was a very close game against French Frogs, triple overtime in 2
I
maps.
think the big one for me is they beat Movistar Riders, right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure like how good like the Spanish boys are actually right now, especially with
They did lose
with
to Giants. So.
with Lowell leaving. I feel like the replacements, which is Deaths, isn't really that like exciting, and they haven't been doing that well in these qualifiers so far.
So Taz's boys haven't made it either. I think I saw Aristocracy. They played without Rallin. They played with Hades because for whatever reason.
I have no idea what the reason
about
is.
It, like this Europe minor, like obviously outside of the invites where the teams like Fnatic, Mousesports, Big North are, Optic, like obviously a bunch of like really solid teams. But if you think about the open qualifier teams, like none of them are going to make it through. None of them are going to make it to the.
There's
minor.
a big difference, right? There's a massive difference
between
the good teams.
I think like no chance in Sprout. No chance in Sprout.
I don't see a chance there, honestly.
I don't see them beating.
I don't see them beating any of the teams above them, any of the top 8. None of them. Like I don't see that would have to be a massive.
Yeah, Optic is like looking decent, but they're allegedly changing their lineup. Like Tessus is replacing Snappy.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, and Tess is like he's not even like one of the highest touted Danish guys right now, but I guess he's the only guy without an org. He played for like a mixed team, so I don't know.
Just like you were talking about, right? No Chance, Sprout, Gamer Legion, Magnitude, nor Davint, Tricked. Like those teams are not teams that will make it to the minor.
I mean, one of them will. One of them will. Sure, like you can't have 8 favorites go through. It doesn't happen.
I'm not sure how exactly the format will go.
What about like big could get fucked. Like they don't look good with Dennis. What do they play, the ESL Pro League group stage, right?
Yeah.
And breaking news also. That is breaking news. Dennis is now going to be trying out as the main opper of Big.
Yeah, that was fun to read that one.
That is confirmed.
I'm honestly not that opposed to it. Like considering,
I would prefer to.
And give me the context in which that is not a bad idea. Like what is the upside?
Because Topson does not have to do it now.
That's the only upside, which is a fucking weird way to find the upside, but it is an upside.
It is an upside. Like
great upside if you want to be a top 30 team.
I guess I don't know. Like I don't think the thing is.
The current meta doesn't really require you to have like an amazing opper. Like if you have somebody who can pick it up like for the key maps or key positions, key strats or whatever, like it's pretty important like for somebody even to hold angles. Like today the op doesn't really have to be the one like in tree fragging and shit. So I feel like if Tapson just goes back to what he was, and I guess there's still that winning condition with Xantares actually coming back to decent form. Like this thing could somehow work. Like obviously, I don't expect them to break into the top 10 and be just like a consistent contender for titles. But I still feel like they're going to be a solid like top 15 team.
There's a lot of like ifs and buts, right? But I think the only thing that's clear is that Tabson should be in more of a natural role or more of a fitting role.
That is fine. But at the same time,
it's not a team who I'm worried about.
Why did they not just get an opper then? If they don't want to, if they want someone else to play the op.
I feel like that might happen later.
Like Searson is the obvious choice, but obviously there is something that they don't like about that guy because they don't want to sign him, I guess, or he doesn't like them. I don't know. Would be the obvious choice.
Well, no, never mind.
What did we have otherwise? We had Greyhound and Order qualify for the Asian minor, right?
Well, not Order. It's Avant.
Avant.
Avant beat them twice in best of threes.
What?
No.
It's the team with Soju J and other great
Apoc's
players, but
Sterling.
But it's like okay. Ooh. But Sterling is in there, and Sterling had some great series, which is kind of funny because he's the guy that was removed from Chiefs, then got to Greyhound, then removed from Greyhound.
We have a guy called Sterling in the chat, by the way, who I've noticed a couple of times. Is that actually Sterling?
I think that would probably be Sterling.
You think it's the actual Sterling?
I don't know. He has
time right now in Australia.
It's his face.
He's from New Zealand, so the time right now for him would be like 7 a.m. I guess it's possible.
He woke up early.
Yeah, just to watch the podcast?
Maybe.
I don't know. He has like some followers and shit, so I guess.
Okay, well, I guess it's it.
But yeah, I mean, It's a big upset, big disappointment, definitely for Order. They should not be losing on paper that. So I did put out a funny tweet saying, like, I smell a shuffle, because when stuff like this happens, it's kind of bound to happen, right?
Yeah, I think they've stagnated that team anyway, right? Like, there's not really
Yeah.
too much going on. Just get fucking Chelios. Someone get that kid on a team. He is on a team, but he's on a not very good team. He's pretty nuts. All right, so we've had Avant qualify.
And we had MVP coming from that qualifier.
That's
South
East Asia, I think.
East Asia, yeah. And what do
Well,
we
the
have?
last two teams that are coming in are basically Chinese. The Chinese qualifier, close qualifier, is gonna happen like over the next 5 days or something, like from 6th to 8th. Oh yeah, there we go. 6th to 8th, the Chinese qualifier is gonna happen, which is gonna provide the last two teams, which we expect to be like Tyloo and Vici. There's nobody else in that qualifier who can probably make it. Maybe like 5-Power could have some like potentially like upset or something. There's also that BTRG team with Faze, but I don't think anybody really expects them to do that well.
We also had
Tyloo and Vici being the last two teams.
We had NRG, the South African team, qualify, because this is the first time we have a South African qualifier, which goes into the Asia Minor, which is kind of cool. I feel like it's a good place to have a team from that region, so you have like some representation. Obviously, it's not perfect, but then you have some other teams being able to play, like from the North African region. They can play in Europe, but with shit ping mostly. So not ideal, but at least it's something. And what else do we have? Alpha Red qualified, also that's the Southeast Asia. And
they're from Thailand as well, right?
Yeah, they're Thai team, so it's not even like the same Thai team that we had at DreamHack, which also shows that it's not really that there's one great team that's just waiting to make the move and like get more experience and break out. It's kind of just a deadlock there. And it's a mixed team from the Middle East, North Africa. Is that the name of the region?
I think it's FFA or something, right?
Yeah, the FFA mix, which has like players from all over, including 2 European players from like Albania / Kosovo, which is interesting. Just playing with them, because the qualifiers I think are played maybe even on European servers. I'm not sure how it goes, but I know it's complicated, and it's not that bad for players from Europe to play in that qualifier.
I play FPLC with some of those guys.
Yeah, like Zero Cool and Black Eagle and those guys, they play like Rank S and stuff like that.
Some of them don't talk. Let me have a look here. Black Eagle doesn't really talk a lot. Who else they got? Jabs, he talks. Synopsy, he talks. Synopsis, yeah, I don't know how to
Synopsy,
say that.
yeah.
Whatever. But some of them talk. Some of them use their mouths, which is cool. That's a good sign, right?
Yeah,
like,
and there are some interesting clips over there from some of those players and other players as well, just about
interesting clips.
Let's
crisp and clean.
Yeah, crisp, clean locks. But it's weird. Well, we didn't see that in a long time. But not saying anyone's cheating, just some weird shit. Yeah. Some weird shit.
Yeah. All right. CS Minor also gonna have all the close qualifier teams. I think today. Is that it? I think later today. I think we're gonna have the last two teams. Not the most exciting minor either. I feel like there's. Let me see. I'm trying to get into the close qualifier. There we go. It's gonna happen next week, before the next show actually. And there's like the usual teams like invited, like Winstrike, Force, Vega, Simon, Spirit, and then like from the qualified ones, basically like Prosto and Unique are the only two like notable teams who probably have a chance of actually going to the minor. But outside of that, not too interesting.
Yeah. Like we'll see. Obviously, we're going to get into our next topic. I think we've probably covered all the news with the minors, right? Nothing exciting's happened. No one's been banned.
Not yet.
Okay. Well, that's always fun when people get banned. So Boomich has been hanging around the entire time in chat. I think he just wants to hear us talk about him, because we're going to move on to the next topic, which is going to be the Navi trade. And I want to just, first and foremost, say that I was wrong. I thought there was a 5% chance that Navi would make a roster change before.
What did we say, like 40 and 50 or something?
You said
I was pretty low.
You said 5%?
I said 5%.
He said something very low.
So I was very wrong. Prof seemingly knew something that we didn't. He went quite high.
I went with 40. Like he went with 51, I think.
51%, just enough to be right.
Yeah, so that's quite high. You got in quite high there. Now, with this happening, for those of you who aren't aware, Navi were one of the highest, like longest standing roster with that 5, I believe, because it was since November of 2017. So for them to make that roster change, even though things have been looking up, that's why I was kind of thinking they might just ride it out to give Zeus and Edward like a final major to give it a crack and see if they can win under the Navi banner. But they didn't go with that option. They've made the change. They've actually done a trade with Edward going to Winstrike and Boomich coming in to play for Navi now. And a lot of the rumors circulating, I haven't dug into all the videos and read all the subtitles and all that nonsense. I haven't really had the time for it, unfortunately. Hopefully I can get around to it, or hopefully the two of you can give me the idea. But I heard from like a couple of sources, not sources, just general chit-chat.
People that watch the video.
just general chit-chat. That it might be like a grooming situation. You know, Zeus is going to impart his knowledge to Boomich because he was doing the in-game leadership stuff with Winstrike. So maybe it's like a handover situation. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, that's what I was talking about late, like before this was actually official. That it could be like a replacement for Zeus potentially because of the in-game leading situation in Winstrike, where Boomich was leading. But yeah, this kind of makes sense. Like if they take this like these next 6 months for Boomich to kind of like learn the trait a little bit better, and then like they bring in like a sub-diagonal or something like to round out this team with some fresh talent and just get rid of the veterans, I guess, like the only 2 remaining like original Navi members. Now it's just down to Zeus, by the way, like who obviously already left once for a while, but now we only have like one of the original Navi members. So just something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the stats, I just posted a link of the compare thing that we have on Hltv of the 2 players. It's not like Boomich is like some mad fragger currently. Like he obviously is doing the in-game leading for Winstrike, and maybe if he's not in-game leading in Navi, he's gonna be like a bit better individually.
I mean, he was kind of like a rising star.
He was a rising star.
Yeah, exactly. Before he started in-game leading.
He was trying to start like end of 2017 into that 2018 QBF major. And then after that, the team kind of went to shit and everything went up and down for him for a while. And now he's like coming back up, I guess, leading Winstrike. And that is when the team had some success at the last major qualifier and stuff like that. But if you just look at it, you look at the last 3 months, Boomich and Edward obviously playing for Navi, playing against higher caliber opponents, playing on LAN all the time. Has a 1.02 rating for Edward, which is I feel like he's been on the rise. Obviously, maybe that can't go further, but on the Boomich side, we hope his like 1.07 can go further and be better. But it's weird in that sense. It doesn't feel like a massive upgrade for Navi just like this.
The problem for me is, like, I didn't even think Edward was doing badly in the roles and positions he was playing. I didn't think that he was that much of a burden on the team recently. Like, if you want to go back, you want to go back 6 months, maybe we can have that conversation, right? You want to go back a year, yeah, it's a fucking 2-horse race. But I think like he, and I'm talking out of my ass here, I haven't looked at the stats, but I think that he as an individual was probably more consistent than Flamey. Flamey to me feels like sometimes we talk about Flamey like he's one of the sickest aimers in all the CS. And sometimes we talk about Flamey like the cunt hasn't picked up the mouse in 2 months. Like, you know, there's a big disparity with Flamey's performances. Now, how much room is there as well with Boomich coming into the team? What are they going to move around? Are you going to change their entire approach to the game? Like, are they going to change around a bunch of positions?
I don't feel like that will happen, though.
You don't? You don't think that'll happen?
Yeah, I feel like they'll just plug him into Edward's roles.
Yeah, but that's a problem, right? Because like, if he can't contribute more than what Edward was doing, and it's still Flamey who's that player in certain positions who's not getting the 2K when he needs it. I'm not saying Flamey's the problem. I'm just saying, what do they change now? Like, obviously, I think we know that Zeus, he's already mentioned retiring, all that kind of stuff in the past. And it might come true after the major this year, you know? There's going to be a very long break from the Berlin major to the next major, so there's a chance that after that he retires and they do what we said. But, like, this is why I was so on the fence about this decision. If you're going to change just one of the 2 of these individuals, why not just wait? They were on the rise. They were getting better. Why not just fucking give them a shot at it, see what happens, and then change the roster after? Like, who gives a fuck what happens in the next 5-6 months? It's not even that long anymore. Like, you may as, in my mind, they should have just written it out. But I'm interested to see what happens, because Navi are a team for me who are super exciting, right? Like, they have that ability to flex on everybody. They could beat any team in the world and also lose to any team in the world. So it's one of those things. I don't know what's going to come of this. We don't see them until ESL1 Cologne, so that's a month away, right? A bit over a month.
But that's what I was talking about last time when we thought about the potentiality of this, that this is like the perfect time that they could do it just because of the break. Before the major, basically, like they're going to have Cologne, but they will have a lot of time to actually prepare for Cologne, and then they'll have time to touch back on that and prepare for the major for another month or something. So with like 2 months worth of actual practice with some decent like actual like official matches at Cologne, this could be the best time. And like I kind of like the angle of Boomich being like taught this like to in-game lead better, basically, like over the next whatever how long. I didn't listen to the videos either, so I'm just like going off what you said. But I like the angle because of, like, imagine if they waited until after the major where say they failed and they immediately changed both Zeus and Edward, and they would bring in, say it was like Boomich and some Dayang or something. They wanted to have an in-game leader and some fresh talent on top of that as well. Then like it would just be a pretty big change to go through all of a sudden. And we imagine that Boomich isn't that experienced of an in-game leader, or we know that he isn't because he only started very recently. So I like this angle, honestly.
Just quickly,
yeah.
Do any of you have like admin permissions?
For what?
Someone banned that Orion85XX kind of get him the fuck out of here so we can keep having our chat. Maybe Lucas can do it. Anyway, get that cunt out of here. Pack his bags. Close the door. We're talking about Counter-Strike. Zeus will teach me how to rush B. Okay, cool. I guess that's a tough one. That's a more difficult lesson to learn. But yeah, I don't know, because right now it's all theory, right? Like all we can do is talk about the theory of all this situation, because we're not going to see anything in practice in a long time. It's the same situation as when I'm talking about Astralis. I don't think that Simple and Electronic are going to forget their way to play the video game, right? They're still going to be fucking gods. There's no doubt about that. It's just what approach they're going to have to the game and if that's going to change. So that's what I'm curious about. I don't know. I'm still just super surprised that this happened. Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, I mean,
but
clearly based on your 5% prediction.
Yeah, right. Like I'm all good. I'm all good to be wrong. But obviously, there's something good that they can think comes of this change. And I guess we've only talked about the Navi side of things. What do you think about for Edward? Like, do you think this is a chance for him to? He can now take on a veteran role within the CS region.
He's going to lead. Yeah, that's sure. We can talk about that as well. I mean, I don't really think that he's the type. It's just the vibe that I'm getting from Edward, like him being fairly quiet and everything like that. He doesn't really seem like the leadership type. So I guess that's my argument against it. But like that's just my like fairly subjective opinion from not really knowing Edward that much, just because like he doesn't really talk too much to people. He doesn't really do too many interviews, so it's hard. And from the interviews that I have done with him, he's not like particularly cerebral about the game or anything like that. So that's just, I guess that's my argument against it, because I just don't see him being the type for it.
I totally disagree with what you just said.
Really?
I accept that maybe the leadership as a leader of men style of thing, because he does seem as a kind of a reserved guy, but I don't think he's not someone that thinks about the game, or like he's not a thinker in general, especially because if you like back when like 2013-14, I was watching some of the Navi interviews from their YouTube channel, but they were subtitled. And he seems like a pretty smart guy, but just in general, I guess he's one of those guys that doesn't like to do interviews, especially in English, just doesn't give a fuck about them. And half of the time, he's totally half-assing him, just like giving you one-liners, and it's like, fuck this guy, I hate him.
Like, he doesn't really
but
say
then
anything.
Then sometimes you actually get to that, and you can see that he understands shit, and he thinks about it. So I think he is a smart guy, has a lot of experience. The issue is, and I think this is a good opportunity for him to give like a second wind to his career. Like as a fragger, he can be like an okay guy, but can't be instrumental to a team, I feel like. And now as an in-game leader, he can do that, bring in the experience, and then with someone like like Jonta is the coach there right now, and they have some history as well. He's a guy I feel like is a pretty good coach, can bring in good stuff. I think it can be good. Obviously, it's a bigger risk. It's not like I'm expecting him to be a great in-game leader, and if it doesn't, I'm going to be shocked. But I think it's a good, cool combination that could get something cool out of him.
I would prefer if he went to Avantgarde as opposed to Winstrike. Look, I think Norbert is a cerebral player. I think we saw him play has some good rounds at the minor. Quick is also, someone who's like same kind of deal, like at that level. But they have Bondik now, and Bondik hasn't done anything since Flipside days. Like he doesn't even seem like a consistent player anymore, right? Like not at the tier 1 level anyway. So, and then they picked up this new kid in place of World Edit. So that's a good change. Getting World Edit out of there was a great decision. But it's one of these situations. If Edward went to Avantgarde and was in place of Sanji and he was doing that there and trying with that project, I would be excited about that, because that's a team like who's in striking distance of other big names. But Winstrike, they're not in that same position. He's gone from the fucking big leagues. Well, not intentional. He's gone from the big leagues down to playing with the fucking minnows, So it's like it's going to be a big mental adjustment for Edward here, and I hope that he can continue competing and playing, because in the more recent times he was much more liberal in interviews that he was giving to us on analyst desks or talking to him. It was a lot. He was talking and he was very open with things, and I think he's a smart dude. It's just going to have to wait and see what pans on out. But we'll move on. We'll keep going. We'll quickly move forward to the ECS Preview. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, ECS is going down in a couple of days' time. I have to fly from here tomorrow to London to get ready and raring to go for another one. And the teams there, for those of you who missed it, we've spoken a lot about their format online. They moved away from like the best of 2 round robin scenario. They moved into doing cups. And over the course of those cups, 4 teams were decided from 2 regions, the America side of things and the European side of things. Now, I think
5 cups actually.
5, yeah, but
because it was the top
only 4 teams. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But all in all, I think we were obviously happier with this format change. The last bit could use some work, but the rest of it, I think we all enjoyed. I think it was a much better take on this. It made online Counter-Strike exciting again. Now, coming into this tournament, before we saw North play, before we saw this Vitality win Summit, we looked at the final and we thought it was relatively underwhelming. Now, it doesn't have Navi, it doesn't have Liquid, it doesn't have Ants, I could keep going, it doesn't have Faze, it doesn't have a lot of the big names, but it does have excitement factors, and here's the reasons why. Astralis are back to play a tournament. This is a must-win for Astralis. This is a must-win. We have North, 100%. Who has shown some good form. They're happy with their level right now, and they should be, because it looks cohesive. Looks like they're starting to get it going, get it under, all going in the right direction. Furia just excited us. They just gave us a level of excitement, the quirky CS, and their logo is similar to North, so that's pretty cool too. Vitality just won Summit. Yeah. They're not going to be able to change too much in a small amount of time, but if they can continue to ride that wave, then we can see some more out of the Frenchmen. And then this is where it gets wild and weird. MIBR have just spent a lot of time practicing. I expect good things from them. The other teams don't really have anything going for me, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think.
Vitality could low-key make another final here. Not even low-key, I guess. That they're actually in a pretty good spot to make another final here. Especially given that they're coming from a group outside of Astralis, so they're not gonna. Well, yeah. So if they top that group, they're probably not gonna meet them in semis, we assume. So they're probably gonna meet like a Furia or NiP NRG, whoever ends up second. If they beat MIBR North, which are their big opponents in that group. But still, this is a pretty good chance for Vitality to just continue a pretty good run that they've had so far. Obviously, a win in Summit. And then, sure, they got kind of raped by a Fury and in the quarterfinals at Dallas. But still, I feel like they are the type of team that could learn from it. So the second time around, they could actually have a much better chance. So yeah, that's my take for Vitality at least.
We do have the groups, right? I guess we don't really need to bring them up.
Astralis, Furia, and NiP NRG are one.
Yep.
So Astralis, obviously, we expect to come out on top. And then the second team to come out of that is actually really open. Really open. Sure, now with what Furia has shown us, yes, but at the same time, NiP, I like this terminology from Peter, and you've used it actually as well for NIP, which is He called it the gatekeepers of the top 10.
Okay.
Which basically he meant that NIP all often beat like some of these teams that like come out and explode on the scene, but they always stop at NIP who beat them, and then basically that's where that run ends, right? So I kind of like to think that way regarding NIP, just as like the baseline. You called it the baseline, yeah. And Peter called it like the gatekeepers of the top 10, which I feel like is fairly synonymous. I feel like you both mean kind of the same thing.
I think so, yeah.
Oh yeah, and NRG obviously still sure they went out in group sets in Dallas, but they're still a decent team that should have the upper hand against NIP and still be reasonably good against Furia. So definitely a very open fight for that second place.
It's gonna be a wild event. Like I have no idea what anything could literally happen.
I feel like maybe outside of complexity making playoffs, I feel like that's the only thing that's just not gonna happen. Like that would be a fucking insane surprise, especially after what we just heard.
Literally anyone else could win it because you don't know where Astralis is and who they could lose to.
I think win is taking it too far.
It depends on the bracket. Let's say Astralis top their group, but MIBR finished second, and then MIBR beat Astralis in the semi, then MIBR could technically lose to like any of these teams. Doesn't mean they should, MIBR but they could.
Furia in the semifinals.
Yeah, that would be sick.
I kind of want that to happen, honestly. Just the old guard against the new.
I mean, I think this is the closest MIBR it was ever to losing like the first Brazilian spot, like to be the best team in Brazil.
I wonder where like the Tempo Storm. Well, when they became, they changed names.
Immortals and stuff like
Immortals, there we go.
Tempo Storm is a bit early.
Yeah, that's a little bit early. But when Immortals, obviously, when they went second place at the PGL Major, that was like a spot where we.
But that was when SK was pretty sick. Like that was.
Yeah, that was the problem at that time.
So couldn't be that close. So I think this is the closest they've been.
They're they're 3 spots away from each other. Like Furia,
it's like 100 points. It's like. A couple of events go bad for MIBR, Furia could overtake them, which is kind of crazy to even think about happening. But whatever, I guess. I think North is not a team that we touched on about the Dallas thing.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of like on the fence, but I think like what they showed was kind of weird, and I don't remember why, but I know I made a tweet about it, and now I'm lazy to go back and see it.
Well, they should have beaten Liquid, right? Like, well, they should have. Look. They should have beaten Liquid on Mirage. Those 2 rounds that they lost, holy shit. Like, there was the USP round where Nitro came behind in Palace and he had to win a 1-on-1 against Yugi, I think it was, but he killed 3 or 4 people in that round. And then there was the other one where Stewie Zeus the guy, right? Like, those were 2 rounds that happened in the same half of the same game. So I think that, like, North were on track to win a map there. Yeah. But I agree with you, like, it's still early signs, right? We don't really know where to place them just yet.
Yes, now I remember I made a tweet, so I went back and read it. It's like their T sides were so explosive and just like they either execute or they do like a contact play on Mirage. They either like go on 2 flashes or like 5 flashes and a smoke and like 3 smokes. It's like they don't have map control going into like getting mid control, then reverting into a bomb site hit that didn't work out for them at all, which is weird for a team to just not be able to do that, just do some like repetitive things. And I think if they don't kind of adapt their T side, that is going to be a big issue for them. Obviously early for the Valda leadership, but it seems like a obvious kind of, doesn't seem like a real in-game leader T side from my point of view.
Yeah, and that's probably because he's not really there, I guess, right? Yeah, so that might take some time. But looking like more into this Group B, I don't know how you guys feel, but it's going to be 3 teams who we don't know what to expect too much from, North, MIBR, and Complexity. Like, we're obviously not expecting MIBR to completely change their style or anything, but having Vitality is the only known quantity in that group. Who do you guys have coming out of Group B?
Jesus, man. I mean, MIBR and Vitality would be the sensible answer. Because of everything that you've already said, like regarding MIBR, they've had so much time to brush up on things, and Vitality have been looking pretty damn good at these last couple of events. Or at least Summit. I mean, Dallas was kind of like semi-average for them. But yeah, I mean, those 2 teams would make the most sense. But I feel like North could definitely play spoiler to either of them based on what we saw in Dallas. So it's so wide open.
All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's set everyone here pick their top 2 from each group, so technically the top 4 overall. And then what we'll do is we'll pick an overall winner, and then we'll move on and start doing the fantasy, because I'm sure we'll talk more about the teams and stuff while we're doing the draft. So Lucas, can you get the draft prepared? Okay, good.
We got it. Yes.
All right.
Let's go. I'll go with Astralis.
I mean, you can say Astralis immediately. There's no way
Astralis, NIP from Group A.
I wanted to die.
And then MIBR and Vitality from Group B, and Astralis to win it. I'll be boring as fuck.
I mean, it's pretty sensible. I honestly wanted to go with NIP too, just because I have this feeling that this is going to be like another one of those events where just NIP does pretty well, but it's NIP. We don't really expect them to do it on a consistent basis. So like just based on that, I'm not going to say NIP. I'm just going to go with Astralis, and I'm going to go with NRG actually second. For all we've said about Furia, I'm still not sure if they're going to be consistent. So that's why I'm not entirely sure. And that group is wide open. We expect them to lose to Astralis early on, even though it's probably going to be an interesting match. So they're already going to be like on the back foot. They will have to beat probably both NIP and NRG to go through, or at least one of them twice. Mm-hmm. So no, it's actually not actually true. Just
it's
probably
a double
two
of
of them,
right? So let's
it would have to be two of them, both of them. Because NIP will lose to NRG or whatever the other way around. Furia will play them, and then whoever loses to Astralis will play a Furia. So that they will play both most likely. Obviously, if they beat one of them. But anyway, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Furia, I think, will be on the back foot from the start. So that's why I would say NRG. And then from the other one, I'm gonna say Vitality to top it, and MIBR to be second. And overall winner Astralis.
I'm gonna go. All right, I'm gonna go a bit against the grain. I think Astralis, obviously, and I'm gonna go with Furia. I'm gonna go with Astralis and Furia, and then I'm gonna go with MIBR and North. All right, and I'm gonna have MIBR to win the whole thing.
Okay. Going against the crowd.
Yeah. I've gone quite an interesting little take here, but I think that the Brazilians, when you look at the fact they're going to have Nuke in the pool, I know their CT sides weren't fantastic, but I think they can rattle a lot of the teams with their T sides, and they have a pretty good map pool against a lot of these teams. So, and fuck it, let's go with the Brazilians. Why the fuck not?
Is Coldzera going to be sick or what?
I don't know. Maybe he'll be under the weather. You know, it's a long flight from North America to London, so you never know. Might get sick on the plane. No, I don't know. I guess he would have to be. It seems like if you look at his social media, his priorities have changed a lot recently. It seems like more like at the gym and more that kind of stuff. So maybe that's a good sign. You know, more driven, more focused. But you have to think about MIBR, where they started and where they are now. If I was them, the hunger in Counter-Strike would inevitably dip off when you become so big. They're fucking Brazilian celebrities. They're not just Counter-Strike players anymore, right? So I think that doesn't get factored into a lot of discussion because it's not tangible. But I think it is a point to be made. Like, if I was as big as what they were in their country, like Fallen, for example, is running a fucking company. Like, your focus can't 100% be on the game. So I think there's a little bit that plays into it. But I think that they've taken this time off to at least come back in and come out swinging. And fuck it, let's YOLO. Let's stick with it. So we got the draft coming up.
Yes.
It's beginning now already, right? So it's just the four of us. We've got Lucas, the producer.
Gives us a lot of options, at least.
We've got... Oh yeah, well I guess it's just Lucas and the three of us. There's nothing too exciting other than that. So we're going to start in about 10 seconds. Last time round, Prof, you did one with a bunch more people, and Hunden won, which is not surprising.
Classic Hunden, picking the best players to do well in the future. Yeah, it was a humbling experience, especially because...
I'm picking first for change? What the fuck?
Yeah, man.
That's the first time I've ever...
Now that we have like 70 good players to pick, it's like...
Exactly, like now that it doesn't really matter.
There's a lot of good players here.
Fuck. I did not even like think about it. Usually,
this is just a dry little fantasy pick here.
Fully dry.
Jesus Christ! Oh,
you have 25 seconds.
Right now, you need to quantify how good players you haven't seen play and win a tournament in 3 months can possibly be. Right? Like how fucking difficult is that?
But I'm still gonna. I mean, Device is a pretty clear chance.
You went for the ZywOo?
I was really torn between Device and ZywOo.
It's a fucking.
He always delivers,
it's
you
an-
know.
But I just expect Device to potentially play longer, right? So to give me a few more points.
What can you do?
Yeah.
It's the right call, and now little Luke's going to get 2 players from Astralis. Prof's going to get 2 players from Astralis as well if he wants it.
Probably.
That's a question now. Like, is it worth
Glaive,
it to go?
Glaive hasn't really played that well, has he?
Yeah, he hasn't been like insane, but that doesn't even matter. Like his form does not matter. I don't know what his form is. Like if I could have his like FPL stats, maybe I'd go on that. But
Well, it's not like they
it's-
haven't played anything in the last 3 months. That's the thing. Like, sure, we kind of put it that way because blasts are well, not that important, right? But they still played relatively recently, so it's not that hard to
yeah,
tell.
true. They played the group stage, but
It's not even a month ago. It's 3 weeks ago that they played Blast. So, oh shit, I'm picking. Didn't even realize.
Yes,
Cold makes
indeed.
sense.
you are back at it.
Okay.
You went for Glaive?
Yeah, I figured fuck it.
That's your only Astralis player anyway.
Yeah, I guess they're going to be pretty like angry, so let's see if they can win.
I'm gonna double up on my prediction of energy going
Alright.
second and just pick
Alright.
Ethan. I'm actually picking again, right? Fuck
Yeah.
it, I'm gonna triple up. Let's
Ah,
Oh.
fuck! I was going to get Breeze.
go.
God damn it! All right. Well, no one's going to pick anyone from complexity. That's just a fucking
That's not
nightmare
yet.
waiting to happen.
I mean, Pimp would do it.
Yeah, but yeah. All right. Fuck it. Let's see what
Classic
happens
Fallen.
here. Let's see what happens here.
I feel like you're on the back foot here, Sponge.
Well, I'm doubling on MIBR as well, just because like if they're gonna do well, it has to be Fur and Coldzera doing well,
Sure.
in my opinion. Like
Good
Fallen
thinking.
as well, but like the Fur Coldzera thing.
Pretty good
is-
thinking.
I think that's like the backbone.
Yeah, again, he picks Dennis. Why is this a thing? Why did you
Look,
do it twice?
Dennis is sick.
Wait, what? You
Wait,
picked
he-
Dennis?
He picked Dennis.
Lucas, what the fuck are you doing?
There's literally like 10 players that should do better than him.
You should have picked Obo if you're going to pick any. If you wanted to just do a dumb pick, you should have picked Obo. What the fuck?
Honestly, like Dennis isn't that bad. Like if you want to pick an NIP player, you probably go for Forest, but
Well, of
Dennis
course.
is
You're
sick,
definitely
in
going to
my
go for
opinion,
Forrest or
right
Rez
now.
if you want to go for somebody from NIP.
Dennis did
I was actually thinking about
outperform,
Euro
like,
too.
outperform Rez at the last event they played.
Well, yeah,
which
but do we
was
expect them
not
to do
Dallas.
it consistently? I don't think so.
I don't know. What's going on? Bunch.
Yeah.
Valde, let's be real.
Didn't
not
they
that,
auto,
not
didn't
that
that auto
hot.
pick him?
Not that hot in the
that
in-game
hot.
leader role.
Man's not hot.
Is the classic Rez pick coming in again for Sponge?
It's gonna be
It's gonna be a Forest pick.
I'm picking twice
I don't have
again now,
any-
right? Yeah.
I don't have any offers. Fucking.
So, you want to hear a story? I'll give
Yeah.
everyone a story. So,
Easy story.
it is an easy story. How do you know it's
Okay.
an easy story?
How the
I-
fuck?
I connected the dots.
Okay.
Okay.
So, when I went out for dinner last night, after the grand final finished and stuff, I wanted to go and get a nice meal. It's better than, the catering or whatever. So I went out with my girlfriend, went to a Japanese barbecue place, and we were there, and NRG came, and they were sitting at a table. They were all there eating. And then Wimp, the manager, 1.6 Legend, he came and sat down with someone else, I assume from North. Anyway, we talked a bit of shit on Astralis. We didn't actually do that, but that'd be funny. And then he was ordering for other people.
Don't forget.
But anyway-
by the way.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I got plenty of time. We're gonna do this. Here it is. I'm a madman. Anyway, so AZ and Gade rock up to have dinner with Wimp and stuff, and they rock down and they want to order a beer. And the guy goes, "Oh, do you guys have ID? Because we're in the States. It's 21." And Gade pulls out his ID, and AZ goes, "I didn't bring mine." And he goes, "Oh, sorry, man, you got to carry your ID." Da 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 da. So the guy goes to walk off, and as he's like literally from like where I'm sitting, I could reach over and touch them. Like that's how close they were. The waiter goes to walk off, and I go, "Hey, this guy's famous on the internet." And he goes, "What? Like what?" And he comes over, and I'm like, "Look, let me show you a website. I'll show you a website here that will have a picture of him and have his age. He's a professional Counter-Strike player. I'm like, I can show you this." So I pull up hltv.org and I bring up AZ's profile and I show the guy AZ's age on hltv.org. And he's like, "Yeah, all right." Like, so AZ could drink for the evening. So I guess I'm getting people drunk. Not really my thing, but
You are responsible for other people drinking.
Yeah.
It's a good story.
With the
though.
help of HLTV.
I like the
which is
HLTV part of the story.
it's probably the best part of the story, I guess. But yeah, it worked, and they believed me, so it's all good.
And before, like this is gonna become a thing, like getting HLTV to get the wrong age and shit.
All right, who are we waiting on?
He is internet famous. We have Lucas picking the last one.
Lucas,
get over.
Wildcard.
Let's go crazy. Nobody's gonna be criticizing you if you end up last. Just go.
Serato.
Go ahead.
He's done it.
What did he do?
Obo here.
He went for Obo.
He went for Obo.
We need to get some better players, but obviously this was pretty last minute. So
this is a 2-horse race as well here. It's between Prof and Striker because my team.
I fucking like my team a lot.
My team's got fucking nothing going for it.
It is kind of true.
I don't even know. Like, this is even going to be super hard to do roles for this team because I just like all of them are really good.
You have pretty weird team sponge, but okay.
Look, if Zywoo just goes nuclear and drops 50 every game, I'll win.
Look, I'm gonna go leader for device, upper for art because I have 2 uppers, and device is not really that main oppy, I'm gonna call it. And then like the fuck do I do with Ethan, Breeze, and MBK?
I don't know, entry fraggers for Ethan?
I mean, it's like I would probably go with more like defender attacker for like one of Ethan and Breezy.
I don't know what to do for
I
AZ.
don't know what I would do. I don't know. Shit.
I feel like AZ's a really rough one to place.
True.
I mean, well,
you do the T or CT side roles; those are not bad.
I was kind of cheating like with the TCT sides because I've been checking out like previous stat sheets from Peter about which players do well on which sides because like that's not something that you think about often.
And also, it's literally not available.
And it's not available
on the website.
The thing is, like, you can see it from Peter's sheets that he posts on Twitter. Sometimes it's just harder to find. I have it a little bit more available. But yeah, that's kind of how I've been trying to decide. It hasn't really helped me much. Like those 2 roles are actually not that great.
It's kind of random, you know. It's like
also that too, yeah.
Yeah, I got IGL on Magisk, CT for Coldzera, Fur on the entry fragger, and got T side for Yuri. Just like randomly picked that, and the op for Cirque, which is okay, I guess.
I feel like Ethan's better on T side and Breezy is better on CT side, but I don't. It's just like a feeling that I have.
We're gonna move on to the final little thing here. Click to
we have questions.
I guess.
Questions.
So people can ask here. Oh shit! I've hit the wrong buttons and stuff. Fuck.
What?
I think I broke everything.
Let's like you had a tweet and there are a lot of replies. So let's see. Brazilian rivalry. We just talked about that.
We talked about it, yeah.
I'm just changing the bar so people in
I was not
chat
completely wrong, I guess.
There we go. All right, so hold up. Let me bring up my little tweet and we'll pick some good ones here. Obviously, guys, if you are tuning in and you're asking questions, you can ask questions in chat right now. But if you ask a question that we've already covered, you can go back and you can watch the VOD, or you can head over when we upload it to anchor.fm. You can listen to it in the podcast form. You don't actually really need to look at us. There's not too much to see. It's just us talking shit. Oh. So let's just find one here that might be a good one. There's a lot about team stuff, a lot of stuff about Renegades. I think we've touched on that in the previous podcast. It's a similar thought as what we have now about them, that they just need time. Now that Gratisfaction is actually back, I think they'll be a top 10 team again. I think we saw glimpses of them looking good, but they were losing sloppy rounds, like lots of Anticos and that kind of shit. We talked about Faze. What else we got here? thoughts about future of Vertigo. We've talked about that on previous podcasts too as well. Yeah. So if you want to go watch that one, we'll do more when we see it get played more, because we haven't had a huge amount right now. Here's one. Nico's individual level is not that great since Neo arrived. Stats are solid, but not a Nico level, and eye test isn't that great. IMO. Also connected to that, phase problems to close out maps. Thoughts. He goes on to talk about Boomich, but we already did that. So I think there's going to be a handover period for when Nico is going from being the guy calling all the shots to the guy just listening and doing his job. And I also think it's better if it's not Nico dropping 30 every game and everyone else contributing, in my mind. I actually think the coolest thing that's been added to the FaZe clan is the change in map pool. I don't know, what do you guys think about this whole Nico FaZe situation?
It's obviously very early to tell. Like you say, it's just going to take some time for the transition to come in fully, because obviously, like at this point, Neo is probably not feeling 100% comfortable with not only with in-game leading for this team, but for communicating in English as well. And we expect YNK has had a pretty big hand with what Prof has been saying about DreamHack allowing coaches to talk in freeze time. So it's kind of hard to tell at this point, like how much the individuals are performing to their level in the future or not. So I don't know. It's hard to say for me, honestly.
Yeah, and basing everything not even about Nico but about Neo in the team. Just the way the Yanko interview we have that was done, that's on Hltv. The way he approached the whole topic didn't really seem as they're completely sold on Neo as a long-term solution. So I'm not sure if they it's.
Well, they presented it as kind of a trial, so
yeah,
you can already derive.
There is an obvious potential for not potential, but an obvious pick or move would go just pick up Flusha whenever he wants to play. So I'm not sure if that is somehow connected, or if they just maybe think they can get Flusha at some later point, like in 2 months or something. So this Neo thing isn't not even important if it's going to last for a month or two, right? I would
be surprised if it did, though. I don't know. I feel like, yeah.
What are their options?
I'm not sure. It would actually, yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, it's only if it's a Flusha thing, that Flusha doesn't want to play yet, but he's going to be ready to play down the line. But that's the only thing. If they have that already semi set or
yeah, it'd have to be on the table, right? To be.
But it's just about that. If you go and read the interview, just like the tone that Yanko used about talking about Neo is kind of weird. I felt like.
Okay. What else we got here? We got one from Uzi IRL. He says overtime MR3 16K or 10K.
Jesus Christ!
You guys got any thoughts about this one? I think neither.
Yeah, but if it's one or the other, I'll go for 10, I guess.
What was it? Just MR3 10K, MR5 16.
It was just both were in MR3, but it was at 10K or 16K.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I thought it was the classic MR5, MR3. Yeah, I would go with neither.
Yeah, I mean DreamHack had 16K, right?
Yeah, DreamHack basically
I like the
just got
16K part better. I like the 16K part better just because we just don't get ecos, unless people go crazy and just do double rebuy double triple ops in the first couple of rounds. It just doesn't happen that you get really shoddy buys in the third round. So that's why I like MR3 better. But then there's the exact same problem that people can buy three ops and an auto sniper, or even buy an op on Dust 2, for example, and just try to spam through and then just rebuy to an AK or whatever, even in the first round, because you can potentially still rebuy second and third with that strategy in mind. So it's just that's the part that's kind of shitty about it. But then again, we just see it happen so little that people just abuse this part of the 16K so much that I just like 16K better.
There's a real simple solution to all this nonsense.
Well, yeah.
What is a full buy with an AWP, nades, head armor, and a diffuse kit cost? It's probably in the ballpark of 7K, right? Yeah. Why don't we just set that, if you purchase head armor, diffuse kit, full nades, AWP, or if you really want to be a fucking cunt about it, how much more is an auto sniper than an all?
It's 5,000.
250.
Okay, so if we round it up, if we just went an auto sniper, armor, full nades, every single round you started with that amount of money. Let's say every single round you started with 8K. Like every single round, you started with 8 grand, and then it doesn't matter win or lose. It's just 8 grand, 8 grand, 8 grand, 8 grand. You know, because at this point, even the argument now that people are like, oh, economy plays a role in Counter-Strike, so overtime should be the same. I'm a purist. I think that it should be that way, but unfortunately, the game developers don't think that. That's why we found ourselves in a position where we almost don't have any eco rounds anymore, right? Or we don't have any of those kind of...
The thing with that, if you said just like make start money of the round 8,000, that was your solution, if I understand. But then if like for the second round, if you survive, then you have like a shit ton of extra money. Let's say you win the first round as T, like with 4 guys surviving, 1 guy revives, other guys have fully equipment, they need to buy like nades, and then they have 8k, 7k left. So then they can buy the op and do the same shit, like play.
That's
4
true.
ops.
They can still do like AWPing mid doors and all that kind of shit in that regard. The other option, well, that was going to happen no matter how you shape the money system, right?
Yeah,
like,
more or less. You can always do some of that.
Yeah. I guess the only way it would be if we set it to... One of the suggestions Freiburg had in the past was you change the loss bonus. So, like, instead of when you lose the round right now in overtime, I guess, do you get 1,900 as the first loss bonus? I don't even think...
No, 14.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
In overtime, no, it's only post-pistol that you get 19.
Yeah, no, but how is that established? Is that established by the first round of the game?
I doubt that this... No, this is just... I know for a fact that it doesn't apply in overtime.
Okay. So then just change the loss bonus, right? Like you could set a lower cap. You could set the start money at maybe
like 3k or some shit. No,
like
the start money can be this like 8,000 or something like that, and then you put like 3,000 loss bonus.
Yeah, or even
I don't know.
Even if you kept it at 10 and you had it as like double the loss bonus or some shit, right? Like you'd have to actually sit down there and really work it out so you could nut it out and it would be fine. But you want everybody to have guns for all 3 rounds without being able to exploit buying multiple guns and going for those kind of picks. I think that's the ideal situation.
Well, there's also like one. I hope we didn't say it because I kind of spaced out for a second when I was looking at something here. Another option, instead of like starting 8k per player, so that would obviously allow like multiple, like whatever, triple, quadruple, even whatever is the equivalent for 5, quintuple. Or ops or whatever, auto snipers and shit. Like you could just have like one bank for an entire team for the overtime, right? You would have, let's say 30,000, so that everybody has like on average 6k, so that not everybody can just buy ops in it literally every single night that they can, but just like two people can do it, and then the rest has M4s or like whatever rifles. So if you set it to 30k, then 2 people would get ops and all the utility, and the rest would have to buy rifles, or they would just have to sacrifice a lot in terms of utility, right? So you could also deal with it that way, so that you just don't get in some insane buys that you would never see in a normal round.
But the thing is that realistically, Valve doesn't give a fuck about that. They won't do any changes to
the thing is like
game.
The thing is like this is such a very limited problem.
Yeah.
That organizers can just solve by themselves for the most part, like by setting 16k. If your only problem is that you don't want to have like pistol buys and overtimes, which I think is the way to go, not to have them. So that's why I feel like Valve would never really pay attention to this, because they usually pay attention to just like global problems and just like things that you can see very obviously, not some like details like this that are really subjective and based on opinion only.
All right, are we feeling any more questions? You guys got anything interesting in there? There's a lot of people asking like same shit we've already spoken about. I don't see too much exciting questions coming in our way.
We have a question of when the next show is, which is
next
I think
Monday.
We've already said it next Monday, 8 p.m. We've already decided it on that. So exactly a week from now. Which is wait, what is that? Or the day after
the 10th.
ECS? Yeah, the day after ECS.
Monday the 10th. I'll be back in Malta then. So
we're actually gonna have a couple of days off after that.
Yeah, we got a week off.
Yeah, until there's also DreamHack Open Summer and the Portuguese event, but nothing massive.
Yeah, fair enough. I get a week off from not going to an event. All right, let's close it down. Let's shut it down. We've ran 20 minutes over here today. Thank you everybody for joining us. This has been HLTV Confirmed episode number 19. We'll be back with episode 20 next week. If you want to catch all the action, we'll have the VODs up, we'll have the podcast, Anchor.fm. Listen to us in the car, listen to us in the shower, listen to us while you masturbate. Thank you for tuning in.
I don't
See
know
you next
about that
time,
one.
and goodbye.